Never feel bad.
Indeed, we do have a gorgeous, beautiful country in the name of St. Lucia, and we will not allow anyone to make it any different. And that anyone I'm speaking about is the Labour Party. We are here to make this country prosper. This is what this current government is doing, and we are on board with this government. All St. Lucians, all, including the Labour Party supporters, I know they have identified the good works that has been going on by this administration, and they will continue after the general elections of 2011 of 2021 to take us into the future. I have with me three beautiful people from the Castries of his constituency. I have Mr. Terry Valsin, who is the chairperson of the Castries constituency branch. I have Ms. Keisha Menville, who is the supervisor of the Caregivers, and I also have Mr. Peter Henry, the PRO of the Castries constituency, Castries office. Gentlemen and lady, good evening to you. How are you, Mr. Peter? I know you very, very well. I know everyone here tonight, everyone. If you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to wear the mask. We are social distance, so it's okay if we could take the mask off. I know we're trying to be extra careful because the virus is still around, it is still dangerous. How are you doing, Mr. Henry?
I'm fine, I'm okay.
You look like you're okay. You look shiny.
Yeah.
I know the reason for that. The Honorable Guy Joseph has made Castries office one of the best constituencies.
Whenever you're in Castries office, and then whenever you're in Castries office,
yes, sir.
The United Labour Party is in power.
That's right.
Castries office is alive.
That's right.
Especially with Honorable Guy Joseph in power in the driver's seat.
Yes, sir.
So he makes sure that he take care of things. He cannot do everything, but because it's a process as life goes on, as he works.
That's right.
Yeah, because God took 6 days and he rested on the 7th day. So you cannot do everything if God himself didn't do everything.
Exactly.
But as you can see, you cannot open your mouth and say that Guy Joseph is not a worker.
That's for sure.
He is in the driver's seat for sure.
Thank you, my friend. Mr. Valsin, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening.
And you're very familiar to all of St. Lucia, and all of St. Lucia is very familiar to you because you're a prominent figure in the Castries Southeast constituency. How long have you been the chairman?
I've been the chairman as long as Mr. Joseph has been. so we are riding side by side.
Yes. So you're on your third term.
By your third term as chairman in Castries Southeast.
Yes.
And I would like to say good night to the residents of Castries Southeast and the people of St. Lucia and all our listeners in the diaspora around the world listening to Castries Southeast. I would like to apologize for your favorite speaker, Mr. Honorable Guy Joseph, who's running a bit late, but he will be with us shortly. So even if he's not there yet, the show will go on, you still will not miss out what you have been getting every Monday. So even if he's not there present in person, but the zeal is still there in the Castries office basin.
That's right. Yes. I'm happy to hear that. And we have Ms. Keisha Menville. Is that I said right? Menville or Minville? Menville. And she is the supervisor of the Caregivers of Castries office. How are you, my lady?
I'm fine, thank you.
You look very nice. I remember seeing you on the opening of the bus shelter at Fore Road, or how they call it there, Fore. Yes, I did not recognize you. You seem to be getting a little more pretty every day. How is everything in Castries office in regards to the caretakers? Talking about those that are getting...
actually.
Well, you the caregivers, but I was saying the caretakers.
Oh, you mean, okay.
Yes. How are they doing? How are they doing based on what your
community is
people
being
are
kept
telling
clean, so it's going okay. It's good.
Okay. All right, beautiful. I want to start with you, Mr. PRO. I don't know who gave you our shirt. Apparently, you seem to be one of the Sky FM. One of the Sky FM. The Honorable Guy Joseph last week came with a shirt similar to this one, and now I'm seeing you have one. So there's something going on. So I have to find out what is happening if we have people, staff members on the outside. But then you don't have the logo, so I think you're all right.
The best comes from Castries office.
How is your work? How difficult is your job? in the Castries Southeast constituency as the PRO. What do you have to do in such a large constituency to make sure that you get the message out there for the Castries Southeast constituency branch?
It's difficult because, as you know, Castries Southeast is a wide community. Yeah, it's really wide. But again, when you have a worker,
yes,
like the Honorable Guy Joseph, it's not difficult because his work is visible for everybody to see. You know, so being involved and being around, seeing and noticing everything, and me being a mobile person, it's not difficult at all.
Yeah,
you know, because when you drive around and then the people who are doing the work too is not people that are brought in, the people from Southeast Castries that is being used to upgrade their own community. So it's not that difficult, you know.
Yeah. All right, I'm happy to hear that. Mr. Balse, you've been on board with the Honorable Guy Joseph from inception. And how have you seen the representative or the rep grown over the last few years?
Well, what must I say that as much as I've been around Mr. Joseph from inception, and you could balance it off. As much as I was young at the time, yes, but I've been following politics.
So you're not young anymore?
You're much younger.
Okay, great.
I've been following politics from inception because I grew up in a Flabo family in the time of Morocco. I remember as a little toddler and whatever. And politics is something which I always love. I always had a passion for politics, and I've been following. And you could see where Castries Southeast was to what it is now.
Yes.
You watch the transformation, and if we could take it community by community, I will start start from Forest here. I remember you could have seen the state of the road, where now watch the condition of the road, watch Fokodra, what the road used to be, the housing area. That's where they had bananas growing there. That's where I grew up. My parents had bananas there also. So that was part of the land acquired.
Right.
Yeah. So, and going down Forest yet, you have Formalo, which is Geno area. You could see the roads, the road network, the footpaths. And you could take every community bit by bit, and you could see there's a level of development, and there's the touch of Honorable Guy Joseph in those communities. It's not something like you would say, okay, one area is being touched and another one is not being touched. Every area is being touched. But as anything else, if the demographic of our constituency, you would find people might say a lot of things are happening in Bexon area and the environs. Bexon is an unfortunate community. Also, it's a fortunate community. Because of the flooding, you find that the DVRP project, out of all the communities, Bexon was the area that they had to focus on in order to mitigate the flooding in Bexon.
That's right.
Now, as much as that was one project by itself, then we still had to improve on the livelihood of the people by giving them proper footpaths, water system, whereas before you find people would run about 20 lanes, 15 lanes of spaghetti lines. But now you have 2-inch main going through the community where they do not have to spend so much money on buying pipes from the main road to the homes. So you could see Bexon have gotten their fair share, Bexon Mark area fair share of development. And if you go in Bexon presently, we did the DVRP project, you have the CDP, now you have the Proud project going on both in Bexon, in Sarot, where footpaths, water is being brought to the people's homes. So no longer would you find people have to go through track and mud.
So how has the candidate, the rep, from 2006 when he just came in as the parliamentary rep, how have you personally seen him grown into being the representative that he is today? Because he's a shining star, he's a beacon. How have you seen him, the transformation from 2006 up until today? What have you noticed? What have you seen for him becoming this great individual?
What I've noticed is that he has the passion to work more.
Okay.
The more he see things are not being done,
Yes.
the more he wants to do.
Yes.
And what he have realized that taking what he was restricted. Remember, he was only able to spend one term in office. Then we were kicked out of office.
Leave it there.
Where? We were we lost the election. We lost the election. So at that time, when he came in, basically it was like a new kid on the block.
Yes, exactly.
So he did not understand the fully operation and what some of the people demands were. Like he always said, give me an opportunity. Now and later on you will see what I'll be able to unfold.
But remember, he had been around politics prior, because
Yes.
he was around the
Yeah.
Labour Party camp with Mr.
As
Melissa.
much as you may be around politics prior,
Yes, yes.
some of the things and some of the needs of the people,
Yes.
and you will not, sometimes it will not sink in, because remember, you're
Yeah.
not the parliamentarian. But when you become the parliamentarian, you give the people the listening ear.
Anyways, hold your thought. Let me introduce the minister. St. Lucia, the minister, the Honorable Guy Joseph. I don't know what they took, if they had a private jet or helicopter, but he's... Because when he called me and he said he's on the way, I thought they were coming from the south. But he's there with us in studio. Mr. Minister, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Champagne, and
Yeah.
good evening to listeners. You know, if it's Monday night, I'm going to be here.
Yes.
I wouldn't say what time I left Viewport. I'll just say I'm thankful. I'm happy to be here
Yes.
tonight, and I welcome my team, or part of my team here, with the chairman, the PRO, and the person in charge of our caregivers.
Right.
I thought it necessary to engage, especially the person in charge of our caregivers, because of what obtained in Castries Southeast prior to, and I must tell you, this program, the Caregivers program, is a very good program, and that Castries Southeast was very unfortunate under the Labour Party government. If I recall, there were about only 2 or 3 caregivers who were from the Castries Southeast constituency. And when we talk about discrimination, when we talk about victimization, because I was in opposition, so many unemployed people in Castries Southeast. Can you believe that people who are being cared for right in Forest there was coming from Castries East, and I'm talking about Bishop's Gap and Marsha and these places. So there were people who needed jobs in the constituency, could not get a job, but they saw people from everywhere else coming into their communities to be able to. And when UWP came into government and we introduced the Caregivers program, or we continued with the Caregivers program, we were able to select a supervisor who has a passion for caring for people and who has developed a very good relationship. How many caregivers do we have?
I was
present?
about to ask that.
45.
Wow.
45 caregivers. Now, I can tell you, Champagne.
And Mr. Minister, you're saying there were only 3 from 2011 up until 2016?
Yes.
From in all of the in Forest, yeah?
No, the whole of Castries Southeast.
The entire Castries Southeast?
There were 3 caregivers who were from the constituency. There were more caregivers, but they were not from the constituency of Castries Southeast.
We had fast ancillary people from
People.
Yes.
Yes. So when the Labour Party presents
My
themselves as caring and loving and being there for the people of Castries Southeast, the people of Castries Southeast knows that this is not true. We have the second largest population constituency-wise. On our voters list is 13,000 something.
Almost
Yeah.
14,000.
Yeah.
But that was in prior to 2016. So we're talking about people on the voters list. We're not talking about
Yeah,
the
in general.
population
Yeah, in
of the
general, yeah.
country. And you the Labour Party victimized the people of Castries Southeast. And look at, she is here as the coordinator for Castries Southeast. Ask her. I don't get involved. I don't. She makes 90% of the decisions. You know what? Because I have confidence in the people who are around me.
Yes.
So maybe you can give St. Lucia a synopsis, just a summary of what is involved in the Caregivers program in Castries Southeast.
Yeah.
Okay. Good night again, Mr. Minister.
Yeah.
Good night.
And thanks for having me. Okay, the Caregivers program, initially when it started, it was supposed to have been for the elderly.
Yeah.
But because of the demand, it has grown into dealing with vulnerable people. So it's not just elderly people we have persons as young as 20s, in their 40s, as late as
People
almost
persons
100.
under disabilities and
Yes. So it started off for the elderly and has developed into helping out persons who are underprivileged, who are vulnerable. And part of my job, I am supposed to go out into, well, when the call comes in for assessments, you go out into the communities to do assessments based on the needs or the requirements, or pretty much when persons call to require care.
Yeah.
It may be a sibling, a daughter, a friend, somebody from the community. They would see that somebody in the community needs the care, and they would call our main office because we're governed by SSDF. They would call the main office, and the office in turn would either send out a bulletin or, to let me know that somebody requests the care. I would go out to the different homes to, to see how best we could assist. It's not always feasible to provide the care because we have, Castries office has about, I would say maybe almost 70 clients, and we only have 45 caregivers.
70.
Yes, and it's growing because every day, almost every day, you get calls that persons requesting care, and it's not. I mean, I want to help everybody because when you go to the different homes and you see the conditions after doing an assessment, you want to know that you can help somebody, but it's not always easy to do that. And in the homes that we have the caregivers, they're responsible for administering medication, helping with the basic chores of the home, not totally cleaning up the entire house. And some families or some people, they would mistake a maid as opposed to a caregiver. And this is one of the areas that is a little ticklish because you find sometimes it causes a chaos with our caregivers and the families in terms of what the families want them to do as opposed to knowing their job description, because each caregiver...
So that's a good... I'm sorry. So what are the job descriptions that the caregivers are supposed to provide? What are the jobs? What does the job entail? What are they supposed to do at the homes?
On the morning when they get to the client's home, they would either prepare breakfast, or maybe somebody in the family would have already prepared the breakfast, so they're supposed to give the breakfast to the client. Administer medication, assist in the meal preparation, assist in bathing. Also, we try to have 2 caregivers when we have bedridden patients, because as you know, bedridden, they cannot really move.
Right.
All the caregivers we have, they were trained. They are trained caregivers. They have certificates that they were trained. I did my training from overseas. I did not train. I mean, I sat in on the training here, but most of my training was done out of St. Lucia.
Yes.
But they were trained in terms of preparing, administering medication, taking the pressure, dealing with diabetic, epilepsy patients, dementia. It ranges.
So washing of clothes, sweeping the home, mopping floors, that is not part of the job?
It is part of it. I won't say it's not part of it. It gets a little disturbing when you have more than one person in the home, because like I said, if a client lives alone, that caregiver automatically would do everything for that client because there is nobody to take care of that client.
Okay, so I understand.
But if there are other persons in the home, you find that when that member of the family would leave the home on a morning, they would leave the dishes because the caregiver is coming in, so they would literally leave everything there for them to do. They want their windows clean, they want their stove, well, the stove is part of it because, I mean, you prepare the meals for your
yes.
for the clients and stuff.
Yes.
But it goes beyond the number of things that they want done. So I normally would have that intervention when it, try to avoid it from getting out of hand. So at the end of the day, the caregivers know their role. I cannot tell them, okay, you're supposed to take care of Champagne's mother's window.
Yes,
this is not,
yeah.
It's up to them if they see the need that, okay, I'm here from 8 to 4, and this is what I am going to do. It's part of my job, or it's not part of my job, but because I am somebody who deals with people, I love working with people, I'm going to assist. But it's not something I cannot call them and tell them you're supposed to clean the window. Most of the caregivers we have, they work from 8 to 4 if they have only one client.
Okay.
But because of the number of persons who are on the program, we have some caregivers as much as 4 clients.
What are some of the complaints you're hearing from the caregivers, if there's any? Are you hearing any complaints from them?
Mostly every day I have to deal with situations. And one of the things I must say, if you're not a people person and you don't have a love for, I will not say elderly, but just loving people and working with people, this is not the job for. And this is whenever I have meetings with them, I let them know that all the time. If this is not a job you want to be in, leave it. Do not, it doesn't make sense, because if you don't have the patience, if you do not have the love for people, you cannot be part of that program.
Okay. And you're saying the caregivers, what is happening in Castries office, in your estimation, is going on pretty good?
Oh yes, I have a wonderful group of ladies. I mean, out of a normal bunch, you would find there 1 or 2 that you kind of have to pull up the socks sometimes.
Yes.
But overall, they're a wonderful group of ladies. I mean, most of them are older than I am.
Okay.
So it's sort of like I have mother figures who actually I supervise. So, but we work well. They have the highest level of respect for me. Likewise, I don't treat them. Most of the time they would call me with situations beyond work.
Yes.
I try my best to assist on the, even on the weekend sometimes. I try not to take in the calls on the weekend, but I mean, you're always that person that once you're able to listen.
Before I go back to the minister, is the 45 personnel you have, is it sufficient, or you think you require a little more? Or
right now, because of the number of calls and requests for care, I think it could be more. Okay. But understanding from the government's point of view that they can't go further.
All right. Well understood.
Yes. So what I wanted to say is, in our constituency, there's no discrimination. When somebody calls for care and they need care, we don't try to find out what their political affiliation is. We don't make an inquiry to know, is that a supporter of UWP or is that a supporter of Labour Party? She would go in, she would do the assessment. We have a list of persons who are required to be on the list of caregivers, persons to receive care from the caregivers. But as you indicated, the government cannot meet all of its obligations, and in terms of being able to provide one person for each person who is in need. And I want to hasten to say that we have a responsibility as citizens in this country to allow this to be for those who really do not have anybody to care for them. It is very sad that our society has become a society where our parents work hard. They took care of us. They were there for us. They struggled. And when they reach to a certain age in their life, and they have grown children, and I'm not talking about those who are struggling. I'm talking about parents who are capable, or children who are capable, who have the capacity. And because the government is running a program, they would come and tell you, I need help for my parents, rather than take the responsibility. There's a blessing to taking care of elderly people. And when we take care of our parents, when the Bible says, honor your father and mother, that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord gives you. That is a blessing. When we do these things for not just our parents, but elderly people. I've always told you, Champagne, when we're on this program, God has special care for widows, orphans, and strangers. Strangers are foreigners. If you read the Bible throughout its history, God categorized these people separately for special care and attention. And so the Caregivers program is a program that in Castries Southeast is meeting a lot of needs, because I know that some of the caregivers have 2 and 3 people that they are responsible for. So they come here, they spend a few hours, they go to that other home, they go. I mean, I see some of the caregivers walking people who may be partially blind or fully blind, and then because these people need a little exercise themselves that they don't remit, the caregivers would walk with them. Go, I mean, it is real love and attention that is shown. And that is why I tell people, when you look at the constituency of Castries Southeast and the relationship, the job creation we've had in Castries Southeast compared to what was there before. Between now, that people usually mistake caretakers with caregivers.
Yes.
Caregivers are those who take care of the people at the homes. Caretakers are those who clean along the roadsides and the drains and the verges and these things. Between these two groups, how many caregivers, how many caretakers do we have?
52.
We have 52, and we have 45 caregivers. That is already 97.
So Castries office has a specific set of caretakers?
Yes.
Outside of the step, well, not the cleanup campaign?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We have caretakers.
I know there's one in the valley, in the Denver Valley, has a group of these people.
Who maintain, no. But we have the council now that has its own set of workers.
Oh, that's something separate?
Yes.
Okay.
And all of these jobs have been created. Look, the market we are building down there is going to create another 20 or 40 jobs based on how many. But we have the PRO here.
Yeah. The PRO.
I have known Mr. Pitt for many years.
Yes.
Mr. Pitt was in the politics before me.
Right.
I think from the time of Gregory Avril or before.
Maroc.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he has been a staunch supporter of the United Workers' Party.
Yeah.
He is one of the persons, and I know he has seen the progression. He has had the opportunity to evaluate all of the parliamentary representatives that we've had in Castries Southeast.
Yes.
And maybe we can allow him a few minutes to highlight the representation that he has seen in Castries Southeast throughout the years.
So let me help him out there. So Brother Pete, I know I can see you, but you so try to come a little closer to the mic. Yeah. Yes. Now, based on your political involvement, and you stem from Maroc. Maroc did the best she could during her tenure, and then we had the Mr. Avril and the other people. But give St. Lucia and the world an idea of what you have seen regarding Mr. Joseph in the constituency of Castries Southeast.
Well, when it comes to Maroc worked on, she did 1, 2 things, likewise Gregory Avril, but there's a turn when it comes to the Honorable Guy Joseph.
Yeah.
A complete turn.
Yes.
Yeah, because you could actually feel his representation.
Yes.
Because in the days of Avril, it's like, okay, Avril there, he does 1 or 2 things, and likewise Maroc, but when it comes to the Honorable Guy Joseph, you could feel the vibe, like like when it's like mommy goes to town, and when she comes and you hear the vehicle stop, when you hear the vehicle stop, you head to the road.
And it's an all-around representation, not just in Forestier,
or everywhere.
Total.
It's like when Mr. Joseph is in a position, Castries Southeast is like a standstill. He tries his best, but since he's not in government, it's like a standstill. But when he returns to government, it's like the engine is on again.
Yes, a diesel engine. You have to crank it, and then when it gets started, it doesn't go out.
It's just moving. It's moving in every quarter, everywhere. No discrimination, nothing. Because I myself sometimes.
I like that word. I like the word you use. I'll give it a bell on that. No discrimination.
No
that is important.
Because the reason why I said no discrimination is like Mr. Joseph is in his office and he moves around, but I am in the constituency, openly seeing and hearing everything. What I will hear is not what he will hear.
Right.
But I try my best not to discriminate either, being the PRO, because I actually could hear the labor supporters and what they would say. They would even say it for me to hear. And to me, I will just ignore that. And these same people, I can see them in Mr. Joseph's office.
I was about to ask you that question. Sorry. The Labour Party supporters, when you hear them, not in terms of them supporting the party, in terms of the development and the works that is going on in Castries office, what do you hear? Not based on their party or their support of their party, based on the development or the works that they're seeing.
Well, to be honest with you, when I speak to those guys, not all the Labour Party supporters, that is stupid, some of them, not all, but I speak to everybody, and those I speak to who has understanding, because all of them are not the same. They are quite happy with the work of Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Because I spoke to one, and he even said, okay, he even said that he know that Mr. Joseph is doing a good job, but he cannot see himself voting for UWP. So I told him, but I cannot understand you. If you need representation and you are getting representation, you should pay somebody for the works in which that he's doing, you know, and so forth. But to be honest with you, it's just a few. But the thing is, I am very happy that he is not discriminating, and he doesn't like any discrimination neither. Neither from the group, from us. So we try our best. I myself try my best not to hear anything that they are saying, and then I can see those same people in his office, and then you see them being occupied working. So there is no discrimination in Castries office.
So how well do you know the constituency of Castries office? How would you say, do you know all of Castries office very well?
All of it. I born and raised there.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Oh, yes.
So
I drive around.
yes.
Yeah.
So you're seeing something happening in at least 90% of the entire constituency. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, 90%, I would say 98.1%, more than that, in the entire constituency, you know.
Wow.
Let me tell you that.
Wow, boy, we need to ring the bell on
Let
that.
me tell you, Mr. Joseph have touched, I could say, 99.9% of Castries office. Though
Wow.
it is a wide community.
It is definitely
I'll
wide.
tell you, if you go around Castries office, you understand, if you go around Castries office, you could say, wow, this is a big community.
It is.
But if I take you with me, and I tell you, okay, come let me show you the projects that is being done, area after area after area after area. You have to say to yourself, whoa, how is all of this going on?
Yes.
And how is all of that going on? Because even he himself, the amount of work that is being done, that he's not even aware of where they are and stuff. Because what we do, we are the ones who work with him. We know where the projects are needed.
Yes.
So what we do, we go and we look around if there is a need for a footpath or a step up a hill and so on. Because you know, we raise as youngsters, sometimes you know, sometimes you go to town, you have to go with two shoes.
Yes,
Or you go with a boots, or you walk down the hill, and then when you reach on the hill, you have a piece of cloth and a bottle of water to wash up again and to tidy up yourself to go to town.
How many areas, if I may go to the chairman, would you identify, Mr. Chairman, that still has that situation where persons would have to take two pairs of shoes in Castries office, one to get through the mud and one to after they get to the main road? How many, is there any area or community in Castries office that still goes through this situation?
I think only one. It was just brought to our attention recently, and we are already dealing with it.
Okay.
And it's kind of remote, because listen, Castries Office has 33 small communities.
Wow, 33.
33
That's
small,
a lot.
yes. And out of those 33 small communities, sometimes people have created another little village within another community,
exactly.
which you are not aware of. And as the canvassers were going around, alongside Marigo, if you realize, part on the one side of Marigo is south and one side is south.
Yes.
So as I'm down in Formage, there's a little remote, a little community right there with some people that we just got to know that they do not have electricity or water, who just created a little, it's almost like a little village. So presently, we're trying to deal with that situation. But apart from that, everywhere in Castries Southeast basically has footpaths where people do not have to walk with 2 pairs of shoes anymore. So anywhere in Castries Southeast, if you see that, is somewhere that remotely some people just decide to form their own little community among themselves, unknowing to us.
Yes.
And once we know that, we try and deal with the situation immediately.
And that has been addressed.
And and that's the thing about it. You find we have a rep, he doesn't try and do everything on himself, by himself. We have a branch. And when we go out, he gets the branch involved. So at least the branch comprises of people throughout the community of Castries Southeast. So areas where he might not know something, people from the branch will bring the information to him. So he's able to deal with that situation much faster and more effectively, unlike in some communities. So we have a very good relationship with our rep, and he always brings us up to date with what's happening. So basically we have a branch who's current.
Yes.
Who will not, if a project is happening in the community, and probably a branch member doesn't know, it might just be an oversight by one of us.
Right.
Because we are in constant dialogue when it comes to project in Castries Southeast. If he starts something and I doesn't know, it might just be an oversight, but later on I would get to know what's happening. So it's a two-way street thing between us and the branch.
What about electricity?
Electricity?
Throughout the constituency?
I don't know one area that haven't had electricity. The only issue.
You're saying there's some residential areas, all of the residential areas in Castries Southeast is lit. There's electricity throughout.
Electricity throughout.
Wow, boy, that deserves the bell.
Yeah, electricity.
You endorse that, Mr. Piaro?
The only thing that is missing in 1-2 areas is lamp poles and lamps. And that already is a request that's already put in for it. And I mean, I myself requested some 6 lamp poles that we need to 6 lamp poles that we need to install. And it was because that they were awaiting some orders of some lamps. That's why these things are not placed. Like I tell you, the whole load is not on the back of the minister, because we are there.
Yes, it's a team.
Yeah, it's a team.
Team effort.
So what we do, we are out there in the field looking for what is needed for the constituency.
Boy, I rang the bell earlier, Mr. Chairman. I just want to ask that again. You're saying every residential area, there's no residential area that doesn't have electricity in Castries Southeast?
Not that we know of. I tell you, the only place that will not have electricity, unless if you find yourself Monjimi, because if you realize Monjimi is part of our constituency.
Yes,
so
that's the end of it.
So that's the only area I could think with no electricity.
What about running water?
Running water, everywhere has running water. What we may not find, there might not be a 2-inch main going to the resident. They might have a few spaghetti lines. But actually there's one area in Wavin Poisson, and presently we are dealing with that situation in getting the pipes done, so the people do not have to find themselves running so many spaghetti lines in those areas.
There's one small area between Mac and Forest there. When I went up there, I would say there are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are about 5 houses. And as we speak, work is in progress in terms of putting electricity into that area.
Okay.
It's in the Flowsack area. But when you leave Flowsack, there's a dirt road that branches up. When the fellas do the cross-country off-road, they go through that road and you end up in forest.
A remote area.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there are about 5 houses up on the hill there, and as we speak, we have assisted in wiring some of the houses.
Oh wow, great.
We have assisted in paying some of the fees for the
the owners,
the connections, because the inspections that were required. I know that Lucilec has visited the area, and they are in the process of putting the poles that are required.
That same area, is there running water or no, not yet?
No, there's no running water in that area.
Okay.
And a lot of these areas are private places where you may find a few people have settled, and then you don't have the facilities that are required. But generally speaking, I would say more than 95% of the constituency has.
Wow. That is a huge achievement, 15 years of representation. Now, we're not saying all of it was done because we know.
I would tell you, the first set of water pipes that was run in Forest, part of it was done through self-help under Maroc as the rep. Some of the roads, if you look at Castries Southeast, you would find very few things that have been done by the Labour Party in Castries Southeast. 90% of what you would see in Castries Southeast has been done by a UWP government. And it's not that Labour has not had representatives representing the constituency. And even when they've not won the seat, they have been in government. And next week, the former candidate who contested against me, Mr. Timothy Mangal, will be here on the program with me.
Okay.
And we would be discussing, he would be giving you a much better insight into the Labour Party operations, what they do, and why they have neglected Castries Southeast the way that they have. Because there's no question, there was a lot of discrimination against the people of Castries.
All because of Guy Joseph.
I would not even say because of Guy Joseph, because over the years, look at the reps of Castries Southeast, who they've been. Clarence Rambali was a rep who was part of the Labour Party. You have Gregory Avril, who was part of the George Odlum team, who has been the parliamentary rep. So when we are in government, so take Castries East as an example. When I was Minister of Communications and Works, we did works in Castries East. All the roads in Independence City, going up the hill, the entry proper and all of that. We did these roads. The new bridge at Bacatel, that bridge going up there, that bridge was constructed under my watch. We don't discriminate against the constituencies, regardless of who is the rep. Because the government is the government for everybody. As we speak here tonight, I am running a project on the Proud program in Larry Shu's view for the constituency of the former Prime Minister, Dr. Kenny Anthony. I don't discriminate against them. We do works everywhere, regardless of who is the rep in the area. The same cannot be said. The Labour Party deliberately victimized Castries Southeast. And we are here tonight as a team, because they would tell you, my team would tell you, when there's a job opening available, I consult them. I say to them, who are the persons that we can recommend? When we have contracts issuing, we engage. I don't go about selecting everybody that I want to give a contract, because these are the people on the ground. Now they can tell you, I have not always been happy about the outcome of things, because sometimes the people we give to select the workers, we get the complaint, They may take 3 people from their own family to work, and then they tell you, oh, it's one set of people. But I always tell my constituents, the rep cannot do everything by himself. You must delegate some responsibility. And what I have seen, so my caregivers program, I don't have to scratch my head about what is happening in there, because I have confidence in Keisha as the person who handles. I don't even get involved in the nitty-gritty of finding out what is happening there.
Yeah.
Because you know what? You have a competent individual who is handling a program for you.
Yeah.
We have Terry as the chairman. Terry is UWP and his family to the core.
Yeah, that's right.
Much more than I am. When UWP lost 16-1, and I was supporting Labour at the time, Terry and his mother was by the road waving their yellow flag, even after the 16-1 defeat.
Right. Yeah, that's loyalty right there.
So people have to understand, Mr. Pitt, always a loyal supporter. I didn't make these people UWP. It's not because of me they are supporters of the United Workers' Party. And a lot of the constituency is like that. I can tell you, we've been able to change a lot of areas that was hardcore Labour Party supporters. You know why? And as Mr. Pitt said it, I tell them, don't call anybody don't label or brand anybody as Labour. Don't do that. When nobody can tell you when they come to my office, I ask them, who you voting for? Did you vote for me? No. When there's a need in an area, we go and we try to address it. Because that is what some of my key supporters get upset with me sometimes.
Yeah, for your choice.
They tell me, you know these people didn't vote for you. You know what I say to my supporters? If you know what I know about this person's situation, you would help them out.
Yeah, I believe that.
And as a result, give me the benefit of the doubt that I have weighed all of the information, and I believe that that person deserves help. And we've given a lot of people help. They pretend that they'll be with you. I generally don't help people because I want them to vote for me. I help people because it's in my nature to help. And they can tell you, I tell them that all the time. I tell them, look here, there's a fella who came to me. Let me give you an example. He said, oh, some of my people told me, Mitt not supporting you again. Why are you going to do something for him? I said, but if he supported me for 2 elections, and the last election he didn't support me, and I've not done something for him for the last, so why can't I do something for him? At least to make up for what I didn't do before.
Right. Now we're not leaving you out of the conversation. I hope you're not.
So I just want people to understand, and I wanted to come to that. Castries Southeast, and I have the book right here with me, Champagne. Castries Southeast, according to the record of 2016, had a total of 13,000 something votes. Now think of that. If you have 13,779 votes.
Votes or registered voters?
Registered voters.
Right.
Registered voters. You're telling me that Labour Party cannot find one person in Castries Southeast to run for them to represent the constituency?
But I thought they had one.
Oh,
the one there now.
he's not from Castries Office.
Oh, you're saying from someone from the area? Okay, from the constituency.
What I'm saying to you is, look at the historical record of the constituency of Castries Southeast, and you would find that the best reps for the constituency have always been in the constituency. Now, everybody here knows where I live. Every one of them have been to my home. Why do you think the Labour Party has consistently been spreading the propaganda, the lies, that I don't live in Forest here? She can tell you she had a function recently. She needed some chairs. She called me. She came to pick it up at my home.
They know you live there because they were planning to come and bid pan by our home. So that means they are aware that you live in Forest here.
But you see, the Labour Party will deliberately use misleading information to cause people. And I tell you, I see supporters of the Labour Party. They see me every morning, every evening. They see me during the day when I'm in the community. They know my home. They pass by my home. Yet still they would go and post on social media that I don't live there. Some of them took pictures of my house and put it on the internet and put a for sale sign on it to say that I'm selling my house and I don't live in Forest anymore. Why would
these things are not even laughable, and that is very, very sick. It's sickening.
No,
sickening.
These, you have to understand, these fellas in the Labour Party are a set of sick people. They need help.
It is sickening.
I mean, they said they were coming by my home. Yesterday morning, I got a couple of phone calls. That's as much as I would say on that. But I tell them, they tackled me in the church. I always respect God's house. I would never do something in God's house to bring a curse upon myself. Because you see the things of God that are sacred. Anybody who understands that, and I like to use my Bible reference. When Saul wanted to kill David, and David was running for his life, and Saul was looking for him and his band of soldiers, when they came to a point where Saul was sleeping and David got close to Saul to the point where his servant asked him, will you spare his life? I mean, he wants to kill you. And David said, you cannot touch the Lord's anointed.
That is for sure.
He cut a little piece of his cloak and he took it with him and he went up on top of the hill. And he shouted Saul down in the valley and he said to him, look here, this is what I have. Here's the evidence that I was close to you and your life was in my hands. And because you see in church, you see the vessels that are dedicated to the service of God. You remember if you read this book of Daniel, you'll see where Belshazzar had the feast. And he went and he took the sacred vessels from the house of the Lord, and the handwriting came on the wall, mini tikel you fasten. You have been weighed in the balance and found wanting. Your days have been numbered. Because the things of God are sacred. And any building dedicated to the service of God is sacred. It's not that I cannot take on the fellas. It's not that I cannot take on the Labour Party. I take them on in Parliament, anywhere I go. But you see, the house of God, never do anything to bring the house of God into disrepute. Because when you do that, you are cursed. And when you are cursed that way, I don't know what breaking that curse on you do. I'm telling you. And so I find that the Labour Party, Philip J. Pierre as the leader, has shown the greatest level of disrespect to the people of Castries Southeast. I call my constituency the church belt. They have more congregations maybe than any other constituency in St. Lucia. different denominations, different church buildings. Every community has one or two church buildings. You are telling me that a man would do something like that? Forget it was me. I'm a politician. I'm not the issue here. The issue is the place you chose. I'm in Parliament. You know where Parliament is. You know where my office is. You know where my home is. I'm in the constituency. Every day we meet each other. You have something to say. You couldn't say it any of these places. You choose to come in the house of God, not my house, not a house of forest here, a church building. And then you say that's just a building. Can you imagine? And Philip J. Pierre. Now when Mangal comes here next week, we will deal with some of these issues, because that's not the first time this has happened in church.
Okay.
So I want to give my team, if they want to make any comment on this, I would love the camera crew to run some of the photos on the screen while we speak about things, because there are so many projects that we have done in the constituency.
How many of 2006 projects that you would remember as you sit here? From 2006.
I remember a few of them. But there are quite a bit that when Champagne, I pass on the road and people meet me and they tell me thank you. People, young people who have gone to Sa'afa, think of it, over the period of time, we have sponsored at least 300 young people from Castries Southeast who have gone to Sa'afa Louis Community College. And I've said that before. I said, when I came to the constituency, and I see the number of young people coming to me with 7 CXCs, some of them 5, some of them 6. And they tell me they're looking for a job, and I'm asking, did you attend SAFA? And they tell me, no, my parents could not afford. I said, no, I have to correct this thing. And we started gradually. We started with 5, we went to 10, we went to... For the year that passed there, we had... When my attaché gave me we had about 60, I thought was 30 something. Between the second year and the first year, we had almost 60 students.
Wow.
That we were paying the 1 year tuition or the 1 semester tuition for them. That is what I believe in. Educate and train the people so that they can take care of themselves. I've known Keisha for a while. I met Keisha in the constituency. I knew her from my days running bus on the route. And then they always call me bus driver. I'm proud that everything I've done to earn money have been honest and I've worked hard for it.
That's what I could say. A guy called me on my program this morning, called me about red cap, tell me carrying luggage. I'm proud to carry
exactly.
It has helped me.
Mr. Pitt and I have served together. National Council. So I can relate to the people in my constituency because I've been a farmer, I've been a manufacturer, I've been a salesperson, I've been an equipment owner, operator. I have been in different businesses and I have worked with these people and we have a good rapport. We don't have to come and pretend, and it's not because elections coming around. But I would let Keisha come in.
Before we go to Keisha, Castries Southeast is not predominantly a sporting area. Or I don't know if I have that. Any plans to boost up the sporting?
Oh yeah, Castries Southeast is a very strong sporting
area.
Well,
not too much of it. Because
no, what you hear Castries South, because the Youth and Sports Council is Castries South Youth and Sports Council, but it's a combination of between the, South and Southeast. Both of them make up Castries South Youth and Sports Council.
Now, the ministry has a different way of the way they geographically give it. So they have it as Castries South. rather than southeast. So south would encompass Cicero, Castries South. So if you had tournament Castries South, it involves Castries Southeast.
Yes.
And as we're speaking now, I know the Adventists, Seventh-day Adventists, presently have a cricket tournament.
Yeah, the APL, Adventist Premier League.
Yeah.
Now, my reason for saying that is because of the way that the landscape is. You have places like Sarah, these are hillsides, you're talking about Bele. So you really cannot really accommodate a huge playing field in that regard. But when you look at Forest here, it's still on the hillside, but you have a field there.
But we've been able to maneuver ourselves around.
That's what I'm saying.
When I came into the constituency, Mr. Pitt would know that. Road shadows.
Road shadows, yes.
Oh, yes.
Why was that name? Why were they called road shadows?
You were playing in the dark.
On the road. They had no facility.
Yes.
And that was one of the #1 cricket teams around.
Where was that, in Forestier?
No, from Badney.
Badney, okay.
That is how we ended up building the court in Badney.
Oh, wow.
We had to create a new model.
Yeah.
Everybody told them a court could not be built there. That's why we put the community center below.
Yes, I've been there. I've seen it.
And we've replicated it in Sarot. Honorable Ezekiel has replicated it in his constituency.
Yeah.
I think the late Asen James may have had something like that in his constituency before my time, if I should say. But we didn't know about that. So what I'm saying is a lot has been done in the area, and a lot more is being done.
Yes.
But I really wanted Keisha to speak about a little more about the opportunities and how we work with the young people in the area.
I have to keep telling it back and forth because it's very chilling there.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have to ask you the question. The minister already did. What has your experience been with working with the young people in the constituency?
It's very good, actually. I love working with young people. I think the passion I have is with children and with the elderly. It has been a really good experience working with them. And the fact that somebody could, probably walk up to you and, ask you probably a little advice or something, it means that you're doing something good. So it's been a great opportunity working with the young people. I'm actually trying to put together a group of young persons, not just for sporting, but to just do different things for people in the community. I've spoken to a minister about it, and it's going to. There's a name I can't remember the name that I thought of, but just getting young people together.
Is it something like an after-schools program? Is something in that regard? No.
It kind of entails after school, but more assisting persons out, who needs help, because most of the time I have realized that assisting does not necessarily mean that, okay, minister, there is somebody who needs a footpath, there is somebody who needs a wheelchair, there is somebody. It can be just a basic that, a human being can do to assist somebody.
Yeah, but the young people in particular.
So just going out with them, probably just sitting, going to, because one of the things I've realized that when I go to visit the elderly, they don't really want anything much. Just the fact that they want to tell you the story of when they were, working on the roads, or when, it kind of gives you that upliftment that you could actually sit with them. They have somebody to speak with, whether young or old. I mean, it doesn't matter. Once they feel comfortable with you, they would engage in a conversation. So one of the plans that I have is to actually go, take them out into the communities where they can assist one way or the other, because what you find, our caregivers, they work from 8 to 4. Some of them work in one home from 8 to 11, 11:30. They have their lunch from 12 to 1, and they move on. That person is left alone most of the time until somebody comes from work, probably 6, 7. During that time, there is nobody there with them, sitting, doing a little reading, just to be there with them.
Any of the clients, or is it fair to say patients? Are they patients? No, they're clients. Clients is a better word.
Yeah.
Do you have any of the clients that live all alone night and day? Or let me rephrase that. Are there any of these elderly folks that don't have any family member that live with them? Do you know of any? No.
There are. It's Okay.
You know what I mean? Like someone that doesn't have anyone to live with them.
They have family, they have siblings, they have children, but at the end of the day, you could say they're alone.
They're all alone.
Because I think, and I say that all the time, even when I have meetings with my staff and with the families, I would say to some of the families, if government decides today or tomorrow that this program is not necessary, what is going to happen to your family?
Yes.
Because it's like they totally just leave everything for the caregivers.
Yes.
They don't want to, nothing, medication, doctors, clothing. I remember one time, just to stray a little, I went to do an assessment, and the gentleman asked me to, he requested some care for a lady who, apparently the lady raised him. I think it was his aunt or something.
Yeah.
And he told me that he needed care for her. Everything was okay. I already knew who I was going to, to send them. And I asked him, what exactly do you need the caregiver for? And he told me, the basic, a little helping with her food, his wife would prepare the lunch and everything.
Yeah.
And he said the laundry. So I said to him, if there is a home where you have a machine, the clothes could be put into the machine to wash. Not that the caregivers cannot do it, but in this modern day and age, if you have a machine where the clothes could be put into the machine, some of the caregivers, mostly all of them, have machines at their home. There's nothing wrong with you or the caregiver putting that also in the machine to wash. And he said to me that he does not want the lady's clothes to be washed in the machine, his own family. And I'm saying, you don't want the clothes washed in the machine, but yet the caregiver can do it. And, it's just like, okay, I leave all the burden from taking care of her to, laver had lafe to Sani Pufe Valley, and then I had to reject the care because I find it was disrespectful because, it's your family. The caregivers meet you halfway. You're supposed to meet them the other half of the way. But sometimes they just leave everything onto the clients. And
so do you know what's the situation with that client now? You don't know? You have never gotten back?
Personally, I know that the family can afford
to take care.
Yes, but I don't. When I do my assessments, I don't even look at based on if the family, because like I was saying, some people, they have families, they have the money, the means to take care of them, but when they explain the situation to you, it's like you try to assist. I don't think of, okay, but that person has 10 children overseas who can, pay a maid or whatever it is. I deal with the situation on hand. When I go, this is what I see. I try to recommend certain things. I may speak with the family. Later on, they may decide, well, to pull up their socks and try to help out the family. But most of the time, I go based on what I see. I would weigh the option, weigh the situation, and see if the care is necessary.
Do you have any young persons that are on disability, like confined to a wheelchair?
Yes,
You do?
She's 27, 28, thereabouts, yeah.
Just one individual for there?
Well, it ranges from 20 to 40. The ages vary, but the youngest would be 20.
So you have a few people that are disabled.
They suffer from different illnesses, cancer, kidney failure, various.
I must say you all are doing a fantastic job with the caregivers because it's really unnecessary.
And that is why, Champagne, I decided that marking the 5th anniversary, and I want to congratulate all supporters of the United
Yes, we need to ring the bell on that. Yes.
All of the people who came out and supported the UWP in the last election. It is amazing that the Labour Party was going around and making noise. They were actually celebrating their defeat.
Yeah, the defeat. I've never seen that.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine that these fellas are going around and celebrating their defeat? Now, I don't want to overly involve Miss Keisha in the politics. I want her work to remain clean, neutral, and separate from the politics. So whenever you want to take your leave, you are free to do so, because we are going to talk some hardcore politics here tonight. And I don't want nobody to come and say, Keisha, as the one in charge of caregiver, you see how she's operating and this and that. No. I want it to be that everybody is clear that the work you are doing is not political. You have your preference, you have your party, you have who you support, But at the end of the day, I am proud of the work that you are doing. I am proud of the way you handle our caregivers in the constituency. And I can tell you, even strong supporters of mine, Champagne, if they are not doing what they are supposed to do, she will put them straight and tell them, look, you cannot go to the minister and tell the minister, oh, I'm your supporter. And you have a job, do your job and do it right. That is how we operate in Castries Southeast. So I want to assure the people of St. Lucia that Keisha coming on the program tonight is just to highlight the work that is happening in Castries Southeast. Is not to make caregivers political. That is not our intention, but we've done a lot of good work. I am proud of what she has done. I am proud of every caregiver in Castries Southeast because they go beyond the call of duty. You know how many of them take soap, they take things from their home, they buy things from their salary to help care for these elderly people, these people who I need. Sometimes I can tell you, when they go and shop for their groceries, they make a parcel to come with to help out these people. And so I really appreciate not just Keisha, but all of our 45 plus caregivers in Castries Southeast. So I would ask Keisha to give her closing remarks.
Okay, thank you, Minister. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I would like to again thank our caregivers. I know they're tuned in, I know they're listening, and I would like to ask them to continue the great job that they are doing. Continue to be humble, continue to be proud of what you do, and again, being a caregiver is not a job about money, but about humanity and taking care of people. If you don't love people, this is not the job for you. And I would like to thank them again for being a wonderful team and for making my job easier in terms of supervising, and also the families. They're very wonderful group of individuals as well, not just the caregivers. They make my work much easier, so I'd like to thank them. And thank you again for having me. It was a pleasure. Okay, Mr. Champagne, thank you. Yes, sure. Somewhere to extra.
Thank you, Keisha, and I'm happy that happy that you're getting out of the kitchen before it gets too hot. Senator, let me announce the Honorable Prime Minister. Tonight I have surprises, and I don't even know where they're coming from. Mr. Prime Minister, good evening, sir. Good to see you.
Good evening, Champagne. How are you?
I'm doing good. I heard that you couldn't sleep yesterday. You had some noises outside your door.
Oh, man.
Good to see you. Good
very, very good. You know, I was looking for my breakfast.
Someone had a frying pan.
Well, I thought the man had a pan and stuff like that. He was bringing me some sauce and some boudin, but typical labor.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
All they come with is empty pans.
Yes. Yeah.
Making all kind of promises, noise, and everything else, and nothing.
Well, Mr. Prime Minister, on a serious note, when you see these things happen, I know you're a tough individual, but do you take these things lightly when people leave their place of residence and come right outside your gate of your place of residence and make those noises at 5:30 in the morning? Does that affect you or your family members?
I would say probably more my family members than it really does me. I know my wife. My wife doesn't feel like our family, she doesn't get overly involved with the politics of St. Lucia. I mean, she's my wife.
Yeah.
You know, and my kids are home and stuff like that. But, you know, I would say to you, Champagne, that we're very committed to building a new St. Lucia.
Yes.
And that's my singular focus.
I understand.
And I certainly strongly believe in a democracy. And persons can extend what that democracy means.
In that manner, Mr. Prime Minister?
Well, look, you know,
this is the head of state, you know, Mr. Prime Minister.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're more, I'm going to use a word there, and maybe you're more ghetto than a lot of people that's from the ghetto. And I'm saying that based on your bringing up, the way you brought up. You were in Marchand at the court. You were in the gardens. There are a lot of parliamentarians that would not go into those areas. They would never venture into those areas. Now, I know you're a tough individual, but when someone comes to the place of residence of the head of state, not that he was on your compound, but right outside your door, and we knew that's where he was aiming to be, and he was there, that should be taken into consideration and handled in a different way.
Look, there's a sense of desperation on the Labour Party side. And instead of really offering the people of St. Lucia a vision and a plan of what they're going to do, they've not. There's this anger that they're portraying and trying to say to people that somehow somebody's oppressing them. Okay? Nobody's oppressing anybody in this country. If anything was oppressing people in this country, it was COVID. Right? And I think that we as a government have tried...
And the Labour Party.
Yeah. I know, and we've tried our best, right, to fight both.
Yes.
Right? When we were in opposition, the first thing we had to do is to look inside of ourselves and ask ourselves, what did we do wrong for the people of St. Lucia not to vote and support it for us? Okay, we didn't blame it on the people.
Exactly.
We blamed it on ourselves.
That is true.
Right?
That is
and
true.
and remember what we said, how do we become the preferred political party of St. Lucia?
That's right.
Right? And what did it come down to? It came down to education, it came down to healthcare, it came down to security and economic opportunity.
I am loving, excuse me, what you just said about us blaming ourselves. I remember in 2012, the first meeting that was held was at Coco Palm. I remember, you remember, every member was there, including those that had lost their seats, and we spoke about that. We never went out to blame any of the St. Lucia citizens, any of the voters. We never blamed the Labour Party. We blamed us. I was at that meeting.
Correct.
I was at that meeting, and everyone was pointing the finger on this one and who did this and who did that. But not for 1 minute the political leader at the time went out there blaming the Labour Party.
Nope.
Not once.
And we came up with a very clear thing, and we said even if we're going to be elected, it has to be that the members of this party are focused on one thing, right? And we were very upset, very concerned about the standard of living of many people in this country. When we saw the housing in Marshall,
Yes.
in the Boulevard, in Folachot, so many places in St. Lucia, Olean, you go and see how people are living, and it's not right.
No.
And the fact is the government has to play a more significant role, but a government cannot play a bigger role if it doesn't have the resources to do that. So the way that the Labour Party had been running the government of this country, in which we were in perpetual deficits, we couldn't even earn enough money. I mean, and there's that very famous saying, something happened.
Something happened.
Right? And what happened is that eventually now the rope came to an end where nobody was prepared to lend St. Lucia any more money on a long-term basis. And they started borrowing short-term money to do capital projects. Short-term money is to fund cash flow. So if you have a budget and you need things now, you know you're going to be earning tax money, you can take a short-term debt and pay off the debt.
I think, PM, we need to put that in perspective. It's not that nobody was going to lend St. Lucia money. Nobody was going to lend St. Lucia money under the Labour Party. Because look at what you've done since you came in. What have they accused you of? They have accused you of borrowing.
Yes.
But the only way you can borrow is if somebody is willing to lend to you.
That's right.
You cannot borrow even though you want to borrow, and nobody is willing to lend you. How do you get it? So we must understand the equation. The equation was that the Labour Party reached to the point where they could no longer borrow. So no wonder they are criticizing you so much for borrowing, even if you borrowed less than them.
And the thing is that we generated, as you know, our own revenue streams.
Yeah.
You could not borrow any more money on the consolidated fund. Let's put that in a perspective of a person's home. Okay? So your mom works, you're working, you go to the bank takes into consideration the money that the two of you have. Okay? Your child now all of a sudden becomes 19 years old. And if they're lucky, they get a job at Ojo Labs. Right? And they get now $4,000 a month. And the son is living in the home. You now have a new revenue stream that didn't exist before. So if your son is willing, he could now help and use his salary to expand the house, to borrow some more money. So what did we do? We increased the airport tax. Why? Only 15% of the people using the flying on the planes were St. Lucians. 15%. 85% were tourists. So any tax that you're putting on, it was the tourists who were paying the tax.
That's
right? And we put a gas
now
tax.
The more flights you have is the less the percentage of St. Lucians who travel.
Correct.
Because you have more visitors coming in, so it reduces the percentage of St.
So we went from 330,000 arrivals to 420,000 arrivals.
Exactly.
Okay, and it was the tourists. It wasn't more St. Lucians that were traveling, to Guy's point. But the fact is that was $75 US per person. And then we put the gas tax on. And what was the brilliance about the gas tax? And we learned that because when I had discussed it with Guy and we talked about the license fees that were on people for their vehicles. The problem with a license fee is if you don't use the vehicle, you still have to pay the fee. With the gas tax, if you're not using your car, you don't pay the tax.
Exactly.
You're only paying when you use.
When you purchase gas.
Right?
That's right.
And even now, the government of St. Lucia has been subsidizing the gas prices. If we had to let the price be based on the $4 tax that we have, the price would be $14.95. But we know the minibus drivers who have been making a tremendous sacrifice themselves in only having to carry 10 people. All right? We couldn't do that to them. So we reduced the tax. But what we could not reduce is the $1.50, because the $1.50 is what we've used to borrow the money to fix the roads.
Yes.
And who's benefiting from the roads being fixed? People, their homes are benefiting. I mean, when I went down to Soufriere and I saw the new development area, unbelievable.
So PM, let me just put that in perspective quickly so that people understand. When the price of gas changes on the world market, if you keep the trend as the prices go up, if you have to maintain the $4, your price may go out of a range. So what PM is saying is that we maintain the $1.50, but the other $2.50 that government was supposed to be getting, we reduce on that amount, because the $1.50 is a dedicated revenue stream to pay back for the road repairs. So what has happened is that instead of government collecting $2.50, government may be collecting $2 or $2.25 or $2.10, which makes it that the tax is no longer $4, but it may be at $3.75, at $3.50, as the case may be. So the management of the economy, and that is what this Prime Minister has brought to the table, that Labour Party could not offer us. They were clueless about how to manage the economy. And under the leadership of Prime Minister Chasney, he has found ways to raise revenue without squeezing the people of St. Lucia, and at the same time building the confidence of all of the foreign partners that we deal with, whether it be the World Bank, the IMF, the CDB. These, all of the people who are loaning us money and who are buying our bonds, who are they? Why wouldn't they do it under the Labour Party? And why are they doing it under the United Workers' Party led by Prime Minister Chasney?
So is it fair to say that the gas prices, what we are paying at the pumps today, if you were supposed to collect those taxes, it would have been in the range of $14, $15?
Correct.
So the government is subsidized on fuel as well. Is that what you're saying?
We're not only subsidizing on fuel, we're also subsidizing on gas, cooking gas.
Cooking gas, right, yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And that's why, when they talked about the March, you remember because you were there.
Of course,
you were
the
there.
orange.
The fact is that the price of oil was dropping, but the price at the pump here was not. Okay? Because remember, in those days they were using a reconciliation every 3 months. So what was happening is they were establishing a price, because in order to have a fixed price at the pump, you have to guess what the price is going to be. So you're trying to guess what the price was going to be then over the next 3 months.
Yeah.
Right? And what was funny is all of a sudden one day when I started looking at it, I saw for the last 3 periods that the price was continuously $3 higher than what the price should be.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Now, Mr. Prime Minister, we're playing the politics because we're on the stretch. We don't know when you're going to call it, but we're on the stretch. So there's a rumor going around that the Labour Party operators were calling persons today, all day, stating that you would purchase a hotel in the range of $350 million from the funds of St. Lucia's Treasury. You want to elaborate? We don't have to believe all rumors, but we're in the politics.
I don't know. I don't know where we'd get the $350 million.
I'm only telling you what's out there, because we have to. When the Labour Party people call our people,
I know,
make these
but you know, there's an old saying: you have to pick sense from nonsense.
Well, I do, but not everyone would.
I know, but I mean, this is the same strategy that the Labour Party uses all the time. Okay? That's why I call it SLP, secrets, lies, and propaganda. That's all we get from these people.
Yeah.
They kept secrets from us. We never knew about Grindberg. We never knew about Rochamel. We didn't know about cost overruns. We didn't know about Jufali, right? Lies, because they just lie every day.
Yes.
Okay? And propaganda. That's what they're good at.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that party can do well. And it's, you know why? It's because they put politics first.
Yes.
This whole ruse that they're going around talking about, we're putting people first. Since when? There's nothing in the history of Labour Party that ever suggests that they put people first.
Never. You're right on that.
Okay? I mean, you talk about this guy that's always on, he has his show. They call it the Chasney Show.
The Chasney Show.
You know it?
Yeah, on Thursday.
On Thursday nights.
Yes.
Right? You really believe that all the things that he's doing is because he cares about the people of this country? All he cares about is that this person here
that's right.
kicked him out of the party.
Yes.
Now he's saying he left. If he left, why did he take the party to court?
Yeah.
All right? I feel sorry for him, you know. I really do. Because I am not upset with him. But he seems to be obsessed with me. Right? And all of this is about his hatred to Alan Chasney. And it has nothing to do with the people of St. Lucia.
And I know you don't hate him at all.
I don't hate him. You know, the fact is, when he was a minister of housing, tell me how many houses he built. Okay? He talks about that he cared about the people. Tell me what he did to show he cared. All he wanted is walked around with a checkbook, right? With pre-signed checks.
Pre-signed?
Yes. You know that. Castries City Council. Everybody in St. Lucia knows that. Okay? Wasn't even his signature that was on the whole thing. All right? and he's out there, boy, this about Chasney, that about Chasney. But look, at the end of the day, all I can say to you, Chief, we are focused on genuinely changing people's lives in this country.
Yes, sir.
Okay? That is how we measure our success. And COVID, in one way, has been disastrous because it has affected so many people's lives. But it's also shown us resilience. It's also given us confidence as a party that the medium-term strategy that we had to rescue this country, we're on the right track. And I think we're going to come out of this thing stronger. You're at the airport.
I was just about to come there.
You know, in the month of May, we had 14,300 U.S. arrivals. Let's put that in perspective. In May of 2019, that would be 82%. So we have an 82% recovery in the U.S. market. And in the month of June and July, we're expecting to get more U.S. arrivals this year than we had in 2019. And you remember, 2019 was the best year ever in the history of St. Lucia. Okay?
Now, what attributed to that? Because of your vision, because they continuously saying, close St. Lucia, close the country, and you stayed steadfast. You never listened to all of what was being said. And today, we are benefiting from that. We have 2,000 people coming in every week into St. Lucia.
Correct.
2,000.
And so how many people have dreaded jobs? And now that the protocols have changed, and persons who are vaccinated don't have to go into quarantine. They can rent cars. The Airbnb product opens up. People now, I went down to Grosley. I saw Grosley was rammed with people. Right? This is more money that's going to be flowing. Now, is it a full recovery? Until we can get the UK market and the Canadian market, no. But all of the major hotels are open with the exception of St. James. People are getting their salaries. Now that the Airbnbs can open up, a lot of households who get that extra money from having people there. And guess what? While we were locked down and we were going through COVID, we were fixing up the country. So when we're opening up, the country is even stronger. When I go to Casamba and I see people, I go down the Salterbush Road, and I know that there are people who have their product on Airbnb. The tourists are going to be happy. Locals are happy. I went this weekend again to Labourne. I mean, and Spider, we really have to give it to Spider, right? He brought water to the people in Labourne.
Yeah.
He's now put this road.
Yeah.
And I see little bars opening up all over the place. Yeah.
All the way up in Dauphin.
Yeah, and look, and the people in planning told me there's more and more people coming every week to find out what land is available in the place, right? So people are seeing the opportunity, and when they fix up that Daremore Road, which now connects to the Plateau Road and to Laguerre, right? And then now the back road to Agard, and I'm looking forward to when my good friend here, we can finish the road between Trois-Piton all the way back to Bocage. That is going to be, you know, people can leave from Bexar, come all the way through the back road and end up in Moshi and in Labourne without having to go through any of the major
and driving on proper roads.
You know, when you had a statement, Mr. Prime Minister, we've spoken about that so many times. But you're listening to parliamentarians, people that are supposed to know much better, continuously continue to say people don't eat roads. I mean, when you hear that, what comes to your mind?
Well, I remind them that we had a slogan, ching, ching, ching.
Yeah.
Okay? When you fix up roads, that's ching, ching, ching. That's money that you are not going to have to spend in the maintenance of your vehicles. Okay? Better transportation. The value of your land goes up. All of that is what? Ching, ching, ching in your pocket. That's what we've spoken about as a government. Everything we're doing is to reduce the cost, improve the level of services, and improve the quality of life for people. Roads open up opportunity.
That's right.
Okay?
So yeah, go ahead.
As you are saying, road, if you realize the opposition, they do travel. Anytime you go to the US, you will see so many roads there. They keep building more roads. Every time you visit the US, you will see more roads have been built. And who have more road network than the US still?
And I laugh, you know, because sometimes I go, I was just in Miami recently, by where the Dolphin Mall is.
Yeah.
And they have new roads going in there. And if you calculate the amount they've spent on those roads is greater than the GDP of St. Lucia. Okay?
No, but PM, when they say we don't, you see, I tell people, records are there for a reason. The same Labour Party who tell you we don't eat roads. Between 2001 and 2006, they gave out free road projects. The road projects was supposed to cost us a total of $74 million. The total that they ended up paying, according to the audit report, that's by the director of audit, you know, not a political report, $204,170,482.80.
From 73 million.
Put that in the context.
And that's just the one road. That's the road from Vieux Fort.
Soufrière to Vieux Fort, and 3 other roads. That's the Monnier, Trois-Piton, and the one in Denier Rivière in Denride. These are the roads that they built. Over $200 million. And if you put that in context of the value of money back in 2001, compared to all of the things that we are dealing with today. But you see, conveniently, they will come and tell you. And further to that, every one of these road projects was implemented by a foreign-based contractor. Not one of these projects was a locally based contractor. All of the roadworks we are doing today, as we speak, are locally based contractors.
And they want to criticize.
Yeah.
The money stays right there.
Yeah.
But not only just that. Anytime a government does a project and the Labour Party is not the one to do it, the first thing that they say is corruption.
Yeah, they have a problem with it.
Okay? Every claim is corruption.
But even
Yet they don't want to compare it to what they have done, as Guy has done. Right? We have to develop this country. The infrastructure was woefully inadequate.
It was.
From schools to healthcare centers to roads, government buildings. Right? The sides of the road. We're talking about, we've been spending $4.5 million on desilting, and it's still not enough. but it's made a difference. How many people feel safer in their home during the hurricane season? How many people's property has been saved? How many farms have been saved? Guess what that is? Ching, ching, ching in your pocket.
All the time.
But Labour would go and convince people, oh, Shastney said ching, 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 as if somebody was going to put money. There's no free lunch for anybody.
No.
The job of government is to make sure the country can deliver the quality of life that people need. And we give you proposals and policies that work. As Guy said, we came in, we put in the taxes. That's generated $100 million. That money that's not going into the consolidated fund. That's going directly to fund the projects. So the $35 US goes for the airport. The $1.50 is going for the road. So we've now done
And
almost...
PM, we need, because we need to break it down for our people. When we say it does not go into the consolidated fund, but it is accounted for.
It's accounted
in
for?
government revenues. Because...
And it's assigned to the loan.
But it is assigned to the loan.
So it goes
it's
through
like,
SLASPA?
Yes. So it's like salary deduction. You working for X amount of money and you send your salary to the bank because you have a loan. So it's your salary deduction and then the balance of the money is yours. So both for the airport and the roads, that is what we have done.
So the money in the roads is going to the Exim Bank in Taiwan. Right? So we collect the money through the consolidated fund. But the money then is assigned. It doesn't go to be...
So we cannot use it for our day-to-day expenditure because it has its special purpose.
Correct.
Right.
PM, I wanted to highlight something again because I don't want the people of St. Lucia to forget that both Philip J. Pierre and Kenny Anthony, who seem to be presenting themselves to the people of St. Lucia as the ones who can manage the economy. Here's what the audit report said, unapproved expenditure in the sum of $4,239,463.50. That is US dollars. And it says the report indicated that government incurred and paid 97% of this expenditure before approval was sought from the Central Tenders Board. Now, any expenditure over $20,000 could not, the PS had up to 20,000. The Departmental Tenders Board had up to 100,000 that they could spend without authorization or going to the center. Anything above 100,000 EC dollars had to go to the Central Tenders Board. Under the Labour Party, who presenting themselves as the gurus, it says, as per CDB report on review of contract variation, total expenditure incurred on the RDP consultancy as of March 31st, 2006, without proper authorization was US 4 million. 11 million EC dollars. They paid in variation, not the original price, or what we call cost overruns. For consultancy, not for the roadworks itself, And then they paid out 97% of that money without going to the Central Tenders Board. The question is, who got the Central Tenders Board to approve that for them
After
the fact?
Retroactively.
Who? So was the Central Tenders Board under the directive of the Prime Minister, the Minister? Who was it? Because you cannot go and spend and then come and tell the Central Tenders Board. You have to approve. But these are the people and these are the things they don't want us to speak about. Because we have to remind the people of St. Lucia, when Philip J. Pierre presents himself to us as leader, we have to ask him, how did this happen under your watch and what did you do about it?
And what it makes worse, right, is that he would stand up there repeatedly and talk about what? Good governance and transparency. And that's why I keep on reminding him, if you want to be an effective leader, you have to make tough decisions.
Yeah.
You have to show the people of St. Lucia, right, that you mean what you say. So you don't have to wait until you become prime minister in order to show the people that you are serious about transparency and accountability. So you have the situation with Sean. Sean has there's a letter where Sean wrote to the NLA. NLA, National Lottery Association. It's a separate body. And said to the NLA, I want you to create a minister's account. Not my words. Not my words. His words. Where 1/3 of the money would be assigned to the minister's account, where he would be able to approve the projects. Now, a statutory body is created so it has its own board and it's accountable for expenditures and its own revenues. You cannot, the board itself cannot do that. That's a breach of the governance of the board. Then you have the situation with Ernest.
But PM, even before you go there, let's just pause. I saw on Wednesday night Constituency Vibes.
Yeah.
I saw Mr. Cherry on there.
Yeah.
And as diplomatic as he was, and I give him credit for that, I know he should have a law degree. He tried to maneuver himself through without trying to implicate anybody. But he could not, because the evidence is so glaring. So let me give you 2 examples of the minister's account. I mean, people have been calling for evaluations because the report highlighted that the changing room in Foaso was built at the cost of over $400 per square foot. A changing room. The one in Marigo would work out over maybe $600 a square foot. A changing room paid from the minister's account. But here's one of it. Contract number 1 to Ada Inc. Professional services contract dated the 9th of the 9th month 2015. He would have already been a candidate, I would assume, or was en route to $80,000. Ada Inc. first contract with the NLA is valued at $80,000, and the details are as follows. I won't give you the details, but here's the most classic part of this. In addition, on disbursement to Ada Inc., it was noted that the minister's account totaling $33,500. So he was paid $33,500 from the minister's account. The check was cashed on September 8th, 2015, 1 day prior to the contract noted above being executed. So a day before he signed the contract, he had already drawn down $33,500 from the minister's account.
And yet Sean, who's a nice guy, would stand there and say, oh, the money was to expedite projects and to be able to help different clubs and stuff like that. It is a breach.
But PM, here's the best part of it. No supporting documentation was available for this disbursement. But NLA check vouchers prepared at the time of the request stated, request endorsed by minister for the rehabilitation of the Marigo playing field, Larishus playing field, Denry, Morgouge, Lafag, and Viewfort multipurpose court. So it looked like the minister was just running the account as he pleased.
But look, we know
It is.
Well, it's
the 7 months leading up to the election, they spent $7 million.
But also you have the Tiroche,
$7 million.
$7 million.
the Tiroche court. They did some benches outside, and it was the same Ada Inc. But funny enough, he would claim that the Labour Party gave him no money, but he came in our community, claimed it was his money, but Sean would say, they give in excess of $60,000 to put up some bleachers.
In fact, it's about $63,000. And I have the documents to back up. You see, what I want the people of St. Lucia to understand, these are the people presenting themselves. Now, they've accused us, yes, but I challenge them to bring one piece of evidence against this Prime Minister. It's not saying the Prime Minister can write a check to buy a hotel. He doesn't sign any checks from the consolidated fund. Every approval of every cent that must be spent from the consolidated fund must come from the Director of Finance. And the checks are signed by the people at the Treasury Department. So this propaganda of labor.
Happy show.
Nonsense, man. Very, 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 very stupid stuff.
So you're telling me, on one hand you have Sean. What has Philip Pierre said?
Not a single
You then have Ernest. Ernest has admitted himself. He said that the vehicle, he was advised to put the vehicle in the name of the St. Lucia High Commission.
He needs to tell us who gave him that advice.
So who gave him the advice? And once it went into the name of the High Commission, which means it becomes an asset of the state, how did it become yours? Because the only person in the government that can dispose of a state asset is the Director of Finance.
Okay.
And the Financial Act is very clear. If in fact it's worth less than $10,000, the Director of Finance can use their discretion.
Okay.
If it's worth more than $10,000, it has to go to auction. So first of all, who gave him permission or advised him to put it into the name of the High Commission? And then legally, how did he get it transferred back to you? So if he put the name in Tafao Williams, that's what he tried to do. Because if Tafao had bought the car and gotten the duty free in the UK, Tafao as an individual could have given him back the car. But once he put it in the name of the state, how do you get it back? Okay? So that's the problem. So Philip Pierre has said nothing. Again, this is an egregious act, particularly a person who was the High Commissioner, who is now the deputy leader of the Labour Party. Philip Pierre has said nothing.
Not a word.
Then you have the situation with Joachim Henry and going into the church. You're coming here to defend that behavior? Then you have the situation of cost overruns, Grindberg, Rochamel, no answers or anything. And yet you want to go, the people of St. Lucia, forget all the past.
Forget the past.
All of a sudden now he's become the leader and somehow somebody has anointed him and he can separate himself from the past. He's not going to hold anybody accountable. Look at me when I was political leader. When Richard came and we said, Richard, until you can tell us how you lost your visa, you can't run. Rufus, we went down the line. Anytime I've had an incident in my party, even if the person is innocent, because I believe that Eubalus is innocent, even with his own innocence, once he was involved in a situation, until we can get the full clearing, which I believe we'll get soon, right? Then he has to step aside. That's what leadership is all about. You cannot talk always about it's important for us to be in government. It's important to do the right thing. And until he can show us that he can do the right thing, he cannot challenge anybody else on transparency and accountability, because he's established no standard. Look at the former Prime Minister, and he wrote that letter about Herman Gill.
Exactly.
And said that Herman Gill, because of the allegation, right, that I can't remember what the word that he used specifically. Remember the word he used specifically? He didn't have the right integrity or the right.
He's tainted.
He's tainted. Yet I asked him, were there people who ran in his party who had been charged for rape? Were there people that they put in senior positions of his government that were charged for rape? Okay? Yet he didn't think that they were tainted. So you have an allegation on one hand, and you have another one in which people were actually charged. This is the hypocrisy.
And that's a huge difference, an allegation against someone that's been charged.
But that's why I tell you, secret lies and propaganda. That's all these guys are good at.
But look at it. On this issue, there were 75 consultancy contracts issued during that time period, 6 months leading up to the elections. 23 of them was to Ada Inc.
Yeah. Can you believe it?
And there's not a word.
No.
Not a word, not a word, not a word.
And these are the things that have happened that we now need to come to terms, and people in St. Lucia need to open their eyes to the reality. They have made accusations about this government, but they cannot produce a shred of evidence, because I keep on telling them, you cannot find what is not there.
Yeah.
Only God could create something out of nothing. Man
They spent
cannot
$1
do
million
that.
US dollars on an investigation by a very famous forensic auditor called Bob Lindquist.
Yes.
Bob was very famous because he was involved in the Enron case,
Okay.
right? And they have nothing. So even this investigation that they keep perpetuating to say, oh, the US government is investigating Guy and myself and some of the other ministers. Total rubbish. The US has no investigation ongoing with anybody in the United Workers' Party. What there was a letter from the Attorney General declaring that Guy was a person of interest in order to get support from the US courts for them to supply the telephone records of Tony Asenza. That is what the whole investigation was. The government of St. Lucia. So I'm sitting here going, he was the Minister of Infrastructure, of Infrastructure and Ports. So SLASPA actually has two ministers. There's a Minister of Finance that deals with financial matters, and the Minister of Infrastructure deals with day-to-day operating cost, policy. But what's interesting is there's a board. The chairman of the board is the Director of Finance. So the chairman of the board at the time was a gentleman called Anthony Isaac.
Yes.
The PS of Infrastructure is the deputy, who was Alison Jean. There's a representative from the Attorney General's office, was a lady called Ms. Drysdale. And then they have some other business people on the board. So you're telling me that the only entity to approve a bidding process is the board. How does the minister get involved?
Yeah.
They said, well, he threatened the managing director. But how? How could he threaten the managing director? The person who hires the managing director of the board is the board,
Yeah.
SLASPA, with the approval of not the Minister of Infrastructure, but with the approval of the Minister of Finance. And when you're dealing with the airport project, on the financial aspect of which is the bid contract, it goes to the Minister of Finance, not to the Minister of Infrastructure. So to say that because he was the Minister of Infrastructure, and he had all these phone calls, that he was the person who influenced the system, it means that Isaac was corrupt, Ms. Drysdale was corrupt, that Alison Jean was corrupt, because they're the persons who would approve it. But you see, this is where we have to pick again sense from nonsense. This is the same thing of the beating of the pans. Nothing to offer and plenty of noise.
Now the Labour Party, I want to go somewhere else. The Labour Party, they have now, their talk now is youth economy. Now, how much objection you got, Mr. Prime Minister, when you came about with Ojo Labs? And I know it went on for months from the Labour Party. Can you remember some of the objections that you got and all of the fire that you had to deal with in the House of Parliament?
So they were first of all saying that we were paying Ojo Labs. We gave Ojo Labs a building of which they pay rent. Okay, so the government or Invest St. Lucia, the ones who put the capital cost out. Right? So this is a building that had been empty 26 years.
26.
So sitting there producing nothing. So Invest St. Lucia went in and physically built the building and is getting the money back based on rent. The second thing is, we said, if you hire people, because we're asking you to do it in Vieux Fort. Nobody wanted to go to Vieux Fort. Everybody, all the call centers were up north.
Up north.
Okay, so we said for the first 6 months, if the person is getting $2,500 salary, the government will pay $1,000. And then for the next year, government would pay $500. And then afterwards, they pay the full salary. Now, remember, there was a program called NICE.
Yes.
That's where this money came from. So our NICE became NAP, National Apprenticeship Program. So in NICE, they paid 1,100 people $1,500 a month for 3 years. The same people. So here we end up paying $1,000 for the first 6 months, $500 for the next year, and then afterwards the salary now is being paid fully.
Yeah.
Once that program got going and they started hiring the people and it became successful, and then we had COVID. And there was a shutdown in Jamaica, and we had already been going after companies to come to St. Lucia. The company said, look, we want to come to St. Lucia. We've heard about this Ojo lab, so we want to go to Viewfort. They wanted to go to Viewfort, which was ITEL BPO.
Yes, yes.
So you're now talking that between ITEL BPO and Ojo Labs, almost $4 million a month in salaries going into the South.
Yeah.
And guess when ITEL BPO came in, we didn't have to do the NAP program with them. But what we did is we built out the space again for them, and it's getting back the rent. No differently than what's happening with the apparel factories. No different than what's happening with a whole bunch of investments that we do in this country. But why did we do it? To develop the South. We made a promise that the young people in the South would not have to now leave the South to the North to get a job.
Yeah, you have said
you know
that
how
a lot.
important that is?
You have said that a lot.
Okay, so look how many, almost 1,100, 1,500 of them today have jobs in the South, getting anywhere between $2,500 and $4,000 a month.
1,500.
1,500.
That is a lot of young people.
And growing, because they've just now signed a third building. A third building.
I remember the days, when the Labour Party spoke, because the government was investing in young people regarding Ojo Labs, they said all kinds of things.
And look,
today, they're talking about youth economy.
And the same NAP program.
Yeah.
We ended up subsidizing and helping kids become trained to go on the cruise ships.
Yeah.
Let me say this to you, Champagne. PMS, the Labour Party hears about things, they don't think it through, they just say things. When Philip J. Pierre can say he's going to build a smart city in cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
And now...
An industrial city.
No, a smart city.
I know, but it's an industrial.
Yeah.
I'm saying that is the least plausible place in St. Lucia to build a smart city because of the flooding issues that you have there. But it just tells you. So they come and they're telling you about a youth economy, youth economy.
Yeah.
I am still waiting. I am curious to hear what this youth economy is about. Because I've been telling them, no dollars, whether it be $100 or $5 or $20, no bills have age on it as to who generates. If you tell me you're going to create the enabling environment for the youth to succeed,
yes,
I can understand that. What is it you are going to do to allow young people to succeed? And that's what I tell them. When I evaluated my constituency and I realized the number of young people who had met the requirements to go to SAFA and have not attended, we have now sponsored 300 plus students to complete their degree at SAFA. PM, when he came in, he said to Monroe College, we need you to operate in the South.
Correct.
Everybody cannot have to be coming up to Castries. Where did they do the cruise ship training? The program was done in the South. So Monroe operated a campus, a branch campus in the south of the island to train people.
But I want to say to him, because he can't see it, I can see it. I went to his wife, okay? Because I could not get anybody to go to the South. Why did I go to his wife? Because his wife had opened up a university here for nurses and social workers, right?
Teachers.
And that was with the university out of Virginia.
Lynchburg College.
Lynchburg College. So she was the first person to actually get a U.S. institution operational and certified in St. Lucia. That's not easy.
No.
So I said to her, I said, Wendy, I need your help. I said, I need this program to get going because I cannot convince anybody to open up anything in the South. They went and got hotel and motel university. They got a whole bunch of certified programs. So much so that within the year, Monroe's decided to come into the South.
Yes.
Okay? And then we backed off. But the intention always was to get somebody in the South. So how many young people now, what did we do? By paying them $500 a month for them to go to classes. That was a grant. Okay? We charged them, I think it was something like $6,000 for the training program at Monroe. The cruise ships then agreed to hire them and deduct the amount from their salaries. Everything being facilitated by the NAP program. And over 1,000 kids graduated. Not all of them went on the cruise ships, right? But all of them got a degree.
Yeah.
And this is the difference. If you're going to say, or you're going to say that you're going to develop the South, then you have to put your evidence behind it. The Labour Party had the political leader, the chairman of the party, and the second deputy political leader. All were elected in the South for a period of 15 years. It's shameful.
It is shameful.
To go and see where it is. Look at my constituency. Look at Gail's constituency. Look at Este's constituency. Look at Soufriere. In 5 years, what we have done, Choiseul, what we have done to transform those constituencies. And why is it a loss to the people of St. Lucia? Because Vieux Fort, Labrie should be driving the economic growth of this country. You have an international airport, a deep water harbor. You mean to tell me that the then Prime Minister and the representative from Vieux Fort South could not see the vision to put a cruise ship facility there? All the taxi drivers, you know that?
Yeah.
Oh, what job do taxi drivers get? Same job every day, drive people up north. If you had a cruise ship, that whole Southern Taxi Association would have grown. People's businesses would have grown. It would have been a catalyst.
How can a port shut down under the watch of a prime minister? A port,
and it's in his constituency.
In his constituency.
But you know, I don't want to go on forever talking about them.
Yeah, I agree.
The issue is that the people very soon will have to make a decision. We came in on a mandate to build a new St. Lucia. I think that the evidence of our work is in roads, it's in water, it's in healthcare facilities, it's in schools, it's in sporting facilities, it's in job creation, it's in government. The reorganization and the re-engineering that's taken place within government to make it more efficient. Very proud of you, of what you've achieved with the driver's license. And finally getting that online.
And not just that. I mean, today I visited the office in Vieux Fort, and one of the officers who was with me, he said they have the new driver's license. He wants to get that new card because of all the features and everything. And he could not believe that he was able to get his driver's license done the same time. It was produced and handed over to him. People had to walk with a receipt under Philip J.P.'s watch sometimes for 6 months.
I used to call it a permission slip. So I'd be going to rent a car with a piece of paper, right, abroad because I didn't have a proper driver's license. So I'm just saying, you cannot take these things for granted. It's not been in one area. Throughout the length and breadth of this country, there's evidence of the work that we have done. What we're going to be asking the people of St. Lucia to do is to make a choice. You have a group of people who have not changed. So the same people that we're talking about are still the same people representing the nothing has changed.
No, they have gone worse.
Okay? So you take a bunch of people who have only failed. Unemployment went up underneath them. Debt went up underneath them. The economies contracted underneath them. People's quality of people's life went down, and there was no opportunity and no hope in this country. In 5 years, we're transforming the country. Sadly, we have been affected, and the world has been affected by COVID. But the fact is, we've managed it. We're seeing that there is rays of hope. The hotel industry is now coming back on. Construction is going. Jobs are starting to come back. Does it mean that everybody has been, their problems resolved? No. But we have minimized the impact of COVID, I believe, more so than anybody else has. And we're now looking to get out of it even faster than anybody else has. So the people of St. Lucia have a choice. Do we continue what we started on building a new St. Lucia? And that's why we say, let's keep working. That's what we have to do, is let's keep working. For the future of your own children, the future of our country depends a lot on this election. And I don't believe, honestly, that the Labour Party has presented anything to account for their sins of the past. They have no accountability to the people of St. Lucia. And all they're doing is just turning around and making all kinds of allegations, making all kinds of promises. But we've been down there, better days and jobs. $100 million in the first year. All these things never even came close to being manifested. Go through our manifesto, see what we've accomplished, drive around this country and see the difference that's happened in this country. And guess what? We believe we've only just begun. And I am so proud of the men and women that I work with in my cabinet. As I said, we're all leaders. I happen to be the chairman of the leaders, but we have leadership qualities in everybody. Go down the line between Stevenson King, Spider Montoute, Gail Rickebert, Guy Joseph, and even some of the new guys have really come on. I mean, you've had Herod here on your show.
Oh, yeah.
This young man has done the most incredible job. Dominique Fede, hard-working guy. I mean, what he has done in ancillary canneries, the jobs that he's generated back into the hotel sector for his people, bringing the cruise ships back to ancillary and canneries, the remarkable transformation that's taking place in the town of Ancillary, the facilities up in Jacmel, the roads in Millet. I mean, it's everywhere you turn around. And we've just now seen the first phase of the distillery being completed. The second phase is about to come. Why? He takes personal interest, follows up on these things. We're not a party of excuses. We're a party of workers.
Where we at with St. Joe's, Mr. Prime Minister?
I can tell you, well, I should have gone down there today.
Me
but
too.
I know they are putting in the partitions. They have basically almost, they told me they just had about 15 or 20 panels to enclose the entire
And then
place.
the windows have arrived?
The windows have arrived, so they were meeting today to start putting in the windows. The electricals are going in. So the work is at a very advanced stage as we speak here. And I want people to understand, this government is not going to rush and do things and don't do it properly.
That's right.
You see, everybody wants to tell you we are doing election projects. We are not doing election projects. We are doing projects for the development of St. Lucia, and it must be done right. So, could we have done something and try and rush to get in there for the elections? We could have. But would it be what the standard is? And PM knows my position on this. PM knows that I said to him, if you put me in charge of a project, I want to give St. Lucia a project that 50 years from now, when people look at this project, they have to say, even when we are not around anymore, that this project was indeed and in fact a project that the people of St. Lucia deserve. So the people will tell you about we making excuses, and we don't make excuses. We've come out and we've said the challenges we had. You know how long it took, how long these windows were ordered?
Oh yeah.
You know how long it took? Let me tell you, when the canal was blocked with that boat, you know how much backlog of cargo that caused around the world.
But also, it's just, the increase in the prices. You couldn't get lumber, you couldn't get cement. I mean, it's been a nightmare, but we don't make those complaints.
And this is not excuses, This is an actual
That's
fact.
the reality.
That's the reality.
But, the building is actually 15% bigger than OKEU.
That's huge.
Right? It's a big building.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because the vision that we have for Vieux Fort is much greater than being the second city in St. Lucia. You know that?
Yeah.
That's the most important thing to remember. This is not about being the sister city to Castries. We're building a new Vieux Fort that's going to be an international city. So imagine Vieux Fort with the new airport.
Yes.
You then have now the cruise ship that's coming in. I'm hoping to be able to make an official announcement very soon.
Yes.
You then have the DSH and the development around DSH. You have the Sandy Beach development. You have the canals development. You have Black Bay and Sabusha. You have everything that's taking place around this country, but in the Vieux Fort area. It is going to be transformed. So building now an international hospital made sense to us.
Mr. Prime Minister, we have never heard in the history of Vieux Fort $4.5 million in regards to salaries between Ojo Labs
and
ITLBBU. That has never happened.
Never. And then you're talking about the St. Jude's construction. I went down and saw the new airport. They're doing 20 piles a day.
Yes.
They're now starting to cast back behind the piles. So by November, the entire floor plan of the airport will be completed.
3,000 piles.
3,000 pounds.
Wow.
And the entire flooring of the building will be completed. So what the next phase that starts in November is now putting the steel structure, then the glass panels, and the roofing on it. And then the last phase is now all of the designs on the inside. So
what's the time frame looking like? On
April 23.
April 23?
Yeah. So April 23, the airport is opening. November of 23 is when we hope the cruise ship terminal will open, so they all coincide.
Wow.
We're opening up the hospital to be able to transfer the services from the stadium as quickly as possible into the new building,
yes.
And then start now filling out the rest of the building in order to make it an international hospital. If you go online and you see Cayman Health City, right, and you see the success that it's had, that's what we want to bring to Vieux Fort.
Yes.
But PM, just let me run through. So, for the benefit of the people of Vieux Fort and of St. Lucia, because we must understand, for St. Lucia to meet its full potential, we have to maximize what the development in every area.
Yeah.
Just here, a summary of projects in the southern part of the island. The continuation of the St. Jude Hospital project. Okay, we have that. We have the redevelopment of the Huranura International Airport. We have the Ojo Labs Call Center, ITEL BPO Center, the Monroe College Subcampus, upgrade of the customs shed at Port Vieux Fort, construction of 5 new classroom extension, Binfield Secondary School, repair works at the Vieux Fort Infant School and Vieux Fort Primary School, DSH horse racing track, Wasco water improvement, and Wasco's new office. And I saw the office today, it looks really good.
The FBO.
Over $1 billion of investment in the south of the island in one term under the leadership of Prime Minister Alan
That is big. That is big. That is huge.
If you put all of what Dr. Kenny Anthony did for his 15 years as Prime Minister, it cannot amount to a fraction of what Prime Minister Shastley has done in 5 years for Vieux Fort.
But I can honestly say, I don't know why this gentleman is running.
I ask the question every day.
He should be embarrassed.
He should be.
Okay, embarrassed. What is it I try to always imagine in my mind when he's going around house to house.
What does he say to the people?
What does he say to the people?
Yeah.
What can you say to the people?
Well, I heard he goes around with a pocket full of 20 and $5.
Well, I'm not going there.
No, I'm telling you what I heard.
I'm asking the question, what would he have to tell the people? What excuse could he make that in 15 years he couldn't do that?
Can you believe it? Yeah.
The square.
Yeah, he said, yeah. Not to build it,
You talk about you want to push the youth. When you see the state of the sporting facilities there, I mean, where we want to take Marceline grounds is in order to make it like what we did up north with the Groselet School to make it in the Sports Academy.
Yeah.
We want to make Beanfield and the Marceline grounds the next sporting academy for football.
That is big.
Okay? But we have plans for every component of the South.
And I want to say here tonight, and PM knows my position, Castries Southeast and Castries South will not be left behind in the development. Because look at what is happening. The new cargo port facility is coming to Cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
That is in Castries South. But it benefits Castries Southeast. Then you have the new bridge, the Millennium Highway, you have the roundabout.
And don't forget, and the recent event on the Bardlil reminded us that the North-South Highway, the first two components of it, which are very important. First component is from the Darren Sammy Stadium to Dennery. So that means that you now can create, instead of when you're coming up from the south, you don't have to go through cul-de-sac or anywhere else. You can just go up to the Rodney Bay area. But what's an important second phase is from the Millennium Highway that it connects through cul-de-sac on a straighter road now that takes you through the tunnel through the Bardlil back into Dennery. So it means that when your cargo comes off, the West Coast Road improvement is now happening, okay, with grant money.
Yes.
The bridge is being done with grant money. Okay, we're going to privatize the cargo port to get the investment for that, because government does not have the fiscal space to do it itself. Because if government does that, it's going to come at the expense of healthcare, education, and sports, and infrastructure. So it's a revenue generating entity, and now when those cargo comes in there, and you want to bring the containers up north, they go straight through the Bardlil and turn up, because that's a major highway.
Mr. Prime Minister, every time you mention that Bardlil tunnel, you have me smiling, because we know this, the Bardlil,
it can't last.
It is almost gone.
Because
how quickly are we going to hear anything in regards to the Bardlil?
Well, it's very soon, because we've actually got the terms of the agreement to sign. So we have $8 million that we're getting to finalize the design and also the estimates for it. And we have two major banks that are proposing to be able to fund it. But what's interesting is when you took me up there, when they had the incident, in 10 minutes, the amount of vehicles that were backed up, I don't think that we, average citizens of this country, really appreciate how much is going over that Bardlil. And the amount of trucks and tractors, the activity in the country that's taking place. Right? It cannot cope anymore. And the cost now of having to transport containers and equipment around this island, too expensive, Champagne. We have to free up this country. Then you're talking about now opening up all of that East Coast land that has remained closed. And St. Lucia now starts becoming much more of a powerful thing. So a friend of mine who didn't understand it was living in Barbados. I said, imagine Barbados without the ABC highway. Imagine Jamaica without the new highway between Montego Bay and the Grill, and then between Montego Bay and Ocho Rios, and now the new highway between Ocho Rios and Kingston. I mean, a good friend of mine who has a business there, he said 60% savings in maintenance of his building. A doubling of the productivity of his drivers, because his drivers now can do 2 trips in a day instead of doing 1 trip in a day. Okay, that's 100% improvement.
And that's the same thing for the Bardlil too.
And less fuel. This is what is really going to take this country, and that's why it's difficult for me sometimes to go back and talk about what the Labour Party did. Sadly, they're making plenty noise out there, and sometimes you just have to sit down and address these issues. And I'm saying, Labour Party is not ready. Until you are willing to atone for your sins and tell the people of St. Lucia what has changed.
Yeah.
How is it that anybody can trust them to deliver anything based on all the promises that they had? And it's the same people. Nothing has changed.
Nothing.
But they want to throw and cast all kinds of aspersions on everybody else because that's their game. Deflect. Deflect. And then say, oh, there's vindictiveness and all kinds of things going on. I can assure you, there's not one person in the Labour Party, not one do I hate. There's nobody in the Labour Party that I have any revenge on. Nothing. I am focused, and so is my team, focused on what? Delivering to St. Lucians. And most importantly, and you know this more than anybody, Champagne, especially the people in this country who cannot fend for themselves.
Yeah.
That is where this country has failed. That is who this country has failed. And have we progressed to the extent we'd like to? No. But I can tell you, we're well on our way. We're fixing up the government. We're generating better revenues for the government. If it had not been for COVID, we would be way past that. We're putting in new systems. So the singular ID card, health insurance, these are real. This is not pie in the sky.
No.
They're still talking about universal health care. The government cannot afford universal health care. So all the systems that are being put in place are to deliver a world-class or a quality, affordable healthcare system to the people of this country.
So the government is going to introduce healthcare insurance, which is capped at a certain level.
And will pay single mothers who are unemployed,
The vulnerable,
the poor, and then the poor.
Indigent.
So that's
And the senior
will
people
pay the insurance
for
for
them.
all of these people.
so universal health care and the one the government is looking into, there's two separate, two different.
Yeah, universal health care is the premise that the government will pay for everything.
That's why
So, in essence, what they've been telling you is universal health care.
Yeah,
But the
they've been saying
reality is they're not getting the money. The only money the government is transferring to the hospitals right now is to pay salaries. So where's the medicine coming from?
Yes,
The maintenance of the
yes,
buildings.
that's right.
So in essence, when you have healthcare insurance and you go to get your services, all right,
For them to do that, Champagne, they will have to take 30% of your salary to go to NIC.
right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for you to repay, so when you go
Know
to the,
what I'm saying?
I-
30% they'll take from you.
so when you
Yeah.
go to the hospital, right, and you have your health care insurance, and services are provided, the hospital then will bill the insurance company to pay them back. So how this becomes cheaper for everybody is because every single person in St. Lucia will have to have the insurance. So the pool of money will be much bigger to be able to afford to do that. But government says, we will pay the insurance for the people who are unemployed, for the people on the vulnerable list, the elderly, who have a pension, a fixed pension, and would not be able to afford it for themselves. And the win for government and the win for the people of St. Lucia is you have to get a general checkup once a year. So we know exactly what is the status of your health.
So is that going to be, where's that money coming from though, Mr. Mr.
Contributions as you pay as you earn. So
Okay.
basically part of your salary, so we're talking about maybe $900 a year would be the premium.
Okay.
Your business would pay half and you would pay half. So you pay $450 a year and you now have your health care insurance.
So for those persons who are self-employed, how you get that money out of them?
Because you have to pick up the insurance.
Okay.
But the thing is, right, Champagne, what's the choice? Because right now, you're going to the hospital and the service is not there,
No, it's not.
okay?
It's not.
So to pay $450 or $900 a year in order
Yeah.
for you to have health
For
insurance,
world-class service.
you
yeah,
means
yeah.
all your doctor's visits
Yeah.
are paid for.
Yes.
You can get now your medication, your x-ray machines, and now more importantly, you have the confidence that when you go to the place, the things are working.
That's right. You have the equipment up there. In the
Because it costs money.
yeah.
There's no way running that. So if in fact government had to pay for it itself, if you tell, we're paying $110 million and $85 million goes to salaries.
85 million
Yes.
annually?
Annually.
Wow. That's a lot of
Okay,
money in
the OKEU by itself is 1,100 people, you know.
That's the staff up there?
Yes.
Wow. I didn't anticipate there was going to be so many people.
And then now you have St.
yeah,
Jude's.
St. Jude's.
Then you have a new hospital
All
opening
the
up in
health
Sioux Fair.
centers.
All the healthcare centers, right? And then the Ministry of Health. It's big,
Yes.
but it's not nearly enough money. If we really had to pay everything ourselves, it would be in excess of $200 million.
That is a lot of money.
So Champagne
That is a lot of money.
and listeners, that is the magnitude of the situation that we are dealing with. And that is why the Labour Party found themselves in a situation where they hit a brick wall.
They couldn't even move into. They couldn't move in.
They could not do anything. Don't mind all what they're telling you. They did the opening ceremony or the naming ceremony of the hospital and never entered the hospital. And I can assure you, if Labour Party was in office, OKE would still be closed because they could not find money to do the basic things. St. Lucians must not forget.
Remember how frustrated the European director was
Oh yeah.
when he gave his speech?
Not
Because they were embarrassed. They'd given all this money to build this hospital, and it couldn't open. And every month they're giving them stones to hold
Yes, yes.
as to how it's going to
Bids,
open.
yes.
Because they couldn't find the money. When we used to have our meetings, I used to tell you all that at the
Oh, yeah,
meetings.
all the
I said, let me
time.
tell you something. These guys are never going to work in the hospital because they don't know how to pay for it.
Not just that. Remember, these are the same people who came to cut public servant salaries by 5%. And remember, the requirement of the IMF to the Labour Party was that salaries had to be cut by 10%.
Yeah.
You know why salaries had to be cut by 10%? Because they could not grow the economy. So the economy was too small. 10% of 100 is 10.
That's right.
10% of 300 of 100, or if you look at 10% of 300,
Yes, 30.
it is 30. The percentage has not changed,
Yeah.
but the amount has increased. And that is what this Prime Minister has done. He's been able to grow the economy. And as the economy has grown, the GDP, everything that the country produces, as it has grown, we have not increased taxes on the people.
No.
We saw how many times Labour Party increased tax. The only two taxes that was introduced by this government is the airport development tax and the gas tax.
Yes.
And in the process, we reduced VAT by 2.5%. We reduced the increase on the license fees. We wipe off the bills at the hospital to the
property
tune
tax.
of almost 14 million. 5 years of no property tax.
Yes.
All of that. And we were still able to find the money. The IMF didn't come and tell Prime Minister Chasney, you must cut public servant salaries by X percentage. So, obviously, this government has done something right.
You know, and Guy reminded me that all the Labour Party does is try to sow seeds of doubt. That's all. So this one where it says, well, the IMF gave us money and we didn't spend it on the people.
Yeah.
It's simple math, you know. It's not a you don't need to go to get calculus. We lost revenue of $500 million. Okay? Between the drop in tax revenues, having to pay the bonds, and the increased cost of COVID.
Yeah.
$500 million. The total borrowings that we had, it's in the books, was $300 million. So we had to find another $200 million. The monies that you got, it's a term, it's called budgetary support. Now, with IMF money as an example, you cannot use IMF money to pay debt. So the Taiwanese money we could use to pay debt. The money we got from ECCB, we could use to pay debt. So we used the IMF to pay some of the other things that we had to pay. But all of it is for budgetary support. And it still was not enough. So as I said, we carried payables of $100 million. And the rest of it was just cash flow management. So to say that there was a whole bunch of money
to give away. Yeah.
So even the money that came from the income support came from NIC. Almost 80-something million dollars. Then we get another $12 million in direct income support. All of the additional cost of the respiratory center, the additional cost of the quarantine centers, all of the medicine, the PPEs, all of that came out of the money.
And to say the government did not even give monies to the people, that's disingenuous.
Of course.
87 million you said from NIS.
Just from NIS.
87 million.
Plus another 12 million that we gave to people who were not on the NIS.
Yes.
Plus all of the feeding programs that we did.
Yes.
But PM, the people of St. Lucia must not allow the Labour Party to fool them.
No.
You cannot use the institution money for anything other than what it was given. So if the IMF gives you a loan and it is specified what the loan is for, you cannot use it otherwise. Neither the World Bank or CDB, whichever institution. And you go to the bank, you take a loan, and the loan is to build a house. You can't just say, I'll take that loan, I'll go and buy a car or buy a piece of land, or I'll go on a vacation. You cannot do that. The money is given for a particular purpose. Now, the banks used to do that many years ago. But right now, what they have the evaluators who come. If you say you're building a house, it's every stage of the house you get, and they release the money. The international institutions have their monitoring agencies to sit
This is why I'm so proud of this man.
Yes, yes.
When he went into economic development, there was $67 million that had not been spent since Hurricane Thomas.
$67 million US.
Correct.
Just lying there.
Lying there. And why? Because they couldn't access it. They didn't have the discipline, the tenacity, okay, or the sense of urgency to get it done. So all of the community centers and the healthcare centers and the drains programs have come from that fund. These are not projects to build hotels or anything else. These things were to build resilience in communities.
The schools, the school in Mikud, the wellness center, the school in Shuazel,
the Blasha Community Center,
the Blasha Community Center,
the polyclinic in Denry.
In Denry, all of these projects.
So I want Lucia to listen to this carefully. The Labour Party had at their disposal 67 million US.
Correct.
You're talking over 150 million EC.
Correct.
Right? Those monies.
No, go ahead.
Those monies were supposed to build little projects in the various communities of St. Lucia, and they could not access that money.
Correct.
And this is the same people that are saying they want to put people first?
Correct. But it tells you of their incompetence. The incompetence, they couldn't move into the hospital. The incompetence, they could not access the monies. The incompetence, they couldn't understand basic economics. And who was the Minister of Economic Development?
Dr. Kenny Anthony.
That is really difficult to understand.
Let me tell you, you see, while they accuse us, you know what they need to know? Every single one of these projects have gone through the tender process.
Yeah.
Now, under World Bank requirements, and they can come and see how we have passed the audits of the World Bank, because they audit
the PI Bridge.
Yes.
And there's another community center you're doing in Choiseul.
We're doing Roblo and PI Community Center. We're doing the PI Bridge. After the money went up on the southwest coast road by over $100 million, they still left a one-lane bridge there that we now have to build a two-lane bridge.
Now you're talking about what he did in housing, Forestier, Tavern, what's going on in Shock. I mean, unbelievable. Okay? Choiseul, right? In my community, right? Beauchamp. We have housing developments taken all over the place. I mean, there's a big project taking place in my constituency, which also falls under housing, which is the Angers. All government crown lands, over 200 households living there for years. Some of them in excess of 30 years. This goes back to Sir John. All right? And through the assistance of his ministry, all the stuff has been now planning approval has been given. The surveyors in finalizing the plans. We've agreed on the price at cabinet, so the persons now can go and purchase their lands. The development bank and the credit unions in the south are being lined up to meet with all the people to get it done. So you'll have 200 people now who will own their own property, be able to borrow money off of the value of that property, plus now there are family members who live there. There's 100 new lots and they'll be given priority. The same thing we're going to be doing in Prale.
Yes, Prale, the lands in Prale have been secured.
Back since Sir John, you know.
Yes.
Mr. Prime Minister, look at Bruceville.
No, but champion,
A Prime Minister,
even before
former.
you go there, in Castries Southeast,
Yeah.
last week Cabinet made the decision. So the lands in Bele and the lands in Odsa, some of the people in Odsa were occupying these lands for 40 years plus. We acquired the lands, we have put in, and Cabinet made the decision that these people are going to get the land within the range of $3 a square
But the
foot.
one I'm the most proud of, I have to tell you, is what he did for the people in Olio.
Olio.
Because he went in and he said, Cabinet colleagues, can't charge these people any money. So let's just go in and do the subdivision of these
As
places.
we can, and just donate the land
And
to the
donate.
people.
Wow.
Okay? And honestly, he came in, and that's from the get-go, and Cabinet immediately agreed with him, because we've seen how the people in Olio are suffering. Even now, another hurricane season is coming. We're trying to get some of the retaining walls that are being done up there. The people are living in their fear all the time.
But look, Mr. Prime Minister, look at what's happening to Bruceville. The people say to you that they cannot sleep, they cannot fall asleep because of what is happening there, the way the little homes are clustered to one, one on top of the other, and then gunshots are ringing almost every night. And you have a former Prime Minister and a parliamentary rep, 25 years, couldn't do anything with housing down there. 25
And
years.
so I want you to know, when we talk about the future plans, the next phase of building a new St. Lucia, housing and the standard of living is going to be the key point.
Yeah.
And the focus of, because we always have to have something that we could measure it by, a minimum standard of living in this country. Okay? I don't care how poor you are, your child must go to school.
Yeah.
I don't care how poor you are, you must have some basic meals every day. I don't care how poor you are, there's a minimum size house you must live in with the basic services.
Yes.
We owe that to each other. We owe that to each other. But I want all of us to understand, those things don't happen by magic.
No.
Okay? They don't even happen because you want them to happen. You have to fix government. We must get in the position where government is developing a surplus budget. Now, there's only two ways to do it. If you're not going to grow your economy, then it means you have to cut the cost. And we're not providing enough services. So it means we must grow the economy.
Yes.
Exactly.
And what I don't understand is, here we are doing things, whether it's Ojo Labs, whether it's Cabot, whether it's port developments, all these things, to do what? To improve the capacity of the country, to grow the country, and all Labour Party can do is accuse you.
Yeah.
And say,
Accuse
oh,
himself.
Shastny is doing it for himself. What are you talking about? I can't drive on all the roads. I don't own all the land in St. Lucia.
Yeah.
I'm not the only person going to the hospital.
Yeah.
I'm not the only person benefiting. My family's not the only people benefiting from these
PM,
things.
there's a reason why they say this, because when there was talk about the road, from Darren Sami, from Grozile to along the East Coast, you can go and find out how many people in the Labour Party bought land in that area.
Oh, yeah.
Because they believe that the things they do, that everybody else
Yeah.
is like them.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I have had the privilege, and I count it a privilege, to have worked with Sir John, to have worked with Dr. Kenny Anthony. I was president of National Council. We met very regularly. We had lots of meetings and discussions. Worked with Honorable Stevenson King and working with Prime Minister Alan Shastny today. I have had that privilege to evaluate and to see where things have been in this country. And every leader at that time did things that they thought was necessary, was what the country needed. But where we are today in St. Lucia, it is clear, and I'm a God-fearing person. I believe in God above all things.
Yes.
We could not have had a better leader at this point in time. I don't want to think of to just try and imagine what St. Lucia would be like under a St. Lucia Labour Party with COVID is scary. Because what it was like without any crisis. And so the Prime Minister will always get criticized. Because he has big plans and big visions for this country. What I know is they tell you, aim high. If you aim high, even though you don't get to the stars, you may get to the clouds. And that is what this Prime Minister has set a new thinking in St. Lucia. But I don't want St. Lucians to forget what we inherited and what St. Lucia was like when we came into government. When you voted out the Labour Party St. Lucians, don't forget what St. Lucia was like. A stagnant economy for 5 years.
And nothing has changed.
Same people.
Same people.
By them, I mean, you have to.
And we're all confused as to who the leader is.
At
Right?
the moment. At the moment.
So,
I mean, you have to give it to this administration. 2 water projects. 2, they could, even if they want to claim the one at Tomaso, it was built under this administration. 2 water projects.
And
one
the dam.
complete and one under dam. That's what I'm saying.
And it's actually 3 because it's also my constituency.
Yes, I did not even remember this one.
Right. Now, you remember he was bringing up
water
the other day.
projects.
Because why? Vindictiveness. This is the same group of people that when they did the East Coast Road, they stopped at the Canals Bridge and restarted in Pralais.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember.
Skip the 2 Miku.
I mean,
can you believe it?
Who does that?
Can you believe that?
Who does that?
Yeah.
That when the water project was started in our in Miku South, it was them that stopped it.
Yes.
The same dock in Miku North that the farmers, the fishermen deserve.
Yeah.
The money was there. Musa moved it and sent it to Savans Bay.
Yes.
And wants to come now and tell the people in Miku North that they're going to take care of them? How? You didn't even fix up the road.
Yeah.
You moved the dock.
Yeah,
You've done nothing for the people for all those years.
Yeah.
When Casa Elias won in our constituency and Labour won, what did they do in the constituency?
Deriso Road, it had to take the UWP to come back into government to do that road.
Blasha, Spring Road, Duga, Lacouville, all of these places. The buses stopped coming.
Yeah.
And now we're fixing up the sporting facilities. But people were sharing water. You would get water some days on the week, not every day. How can that be? When you go and see all of the feeder roads that Sir John did in that constituency and how strong, we are going to bring agriculture back between bananas, cocoa, and the fresh produce. And that same tivolage that we just did in Grosley, right at the Deriso Gap, we're going to put a little tivolage.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so that the farmers and the ladies who are producing some of the best virgin coconut oil in St. Lucia in my constituency can have a place to sell.
We'll have to.
We taking any golf?
No. I just want to say this. I want to highlight a constituency that is near and dear to my heart, and that is Choiseul.
Yeah, I was going to bring Choiseul up. I mean, Bradley's done an amazing job.
Choiseul, I want to highlight it from a housing perspective. You can deal. What we have seen happening in Choiseul, I can tell you. You see that belt from Vieux-Fort back to Soufrière is going to be the prime real estate development in St. Lucia. There's no question. Choiseul is a beautiful place.
Oh my goodness, beautiful.
From any angle you look at it.
Oh, yes.
Whether you go up to Saltibus, you go to Daba, whether you go to Montjacques, you go to La Pointe, you go to Delce, Montgouge, You name it. Choiseul is a special place. And the amount of people in Castries who have their base in Choiseul, they originated from down there. And what I have seen Minister Bradley doing, what we've been able to do with housing lots in the PIE area that the Labour Party had promised the people for all of these years. We just did. Invest St. Lucia is doing a development. Alongside that same development, we have a project being done by the Ministry of Housing in that same area. Choiseul will have over 200 housing lots available for people. And let me tell you, Choiseul has a lot of land.
Oh, yes.
We're still trying to work out what with the River Doré lands. There has the potential. So, apart from the road
that is the same land the Labour Party gave away to the foreigner.
To the foreigner,
what's the name? Was it
Beau Panel.
Beau Panel, yeah.
All of these. So when you look at the hotel that's coming in Choiseul and what we are seeing happening, I tell people, if I had a chance, I would have bought a piece of land in Choiseul, you know. I will not go and compete with the people from the area to buy a piece of land on it. But I know that Choiseul is a beautiful place. And for the first time, you have a rootsman from Choiseul.
That's right.
In Bradley Felix. I have not come across a politician who is loved by his people the way Bradley is loved by the people of Choiseul.
And boy, I mean, he gives me a hard time. Right? I mean, after, first of all, let me just big up Gavin from Tete Rouge and thank him and his wife and the staff for a lovely weekend I had there a couple of weeks ago. But the Salterbush Road, no government wanted to tackle that road. That is a difficult road.
You heard what the political leader for the SLP said. He said 400,000 it would have cost just for potholing. Could you believe that?
Correct.
400.
But you see, what you're always scared of.
But you have done too many potholes. You could not pothole anymore.
Exactly.
And the thing is that with that road, it's kind of like when you redo a house. When you break down a wall, you don't know what you're going to find. Okay? So that road, the amount of retaining walls that had to go in and how deep the retaining walls had to go. And anybody who knows the road.
I know the road very well.
Okay?
Very well.
And then now, Bradley came and said, look, we've done this road, but it's a singular road and it's always going to be vulnerable to the people. So let's do the Park Estate Road. Okay? We did the Park Estate Road, which is now being concreted. We want to take it down all the way to the junction by where the pineapple farm is.
To cross back into Balkan, to come back onto the main.
Okay, so it gives people, if there's any
road.
problems, it gives people a bypass.
That is a lot of
And I know that Bradley is intending to take the road from the main road to that junction that he will get done through his CDP program.
I mean, Mr. Prime Minister, sorry to interject. How could voters, with all what they could see right before their very eyes, forget this and vote for the Labour Party that was just there 5 years ago and didn't do a single thing? How is that possible?
No rep before Bradley Felix.
I mean,
has done the amount of work that Bradley has done in Choiseul.
But look at the Choiseul Secondary School. All of us should be jealous of the secondary school he has there. Now, this is a school that virtually was to be closed. And within 2 years, Bradley had that done. But Bradley is tenacious. He is always calling me. Always putting pressure on me to get stuff. Another one, Dominic and Herod. That West Coast is so lucky to have 3 ministers like that. And they are tenacious. I mean, look at Herod. I went down there last weekend. New development, the Esperance Road, the Belfort Road, the new Zena Road that's going in, the new facility up in Fort Saint-Jacques for the young people. I remember that place I couldn't even recognize it when I saw it. Right? It is incredible. The new mini stadium, the new little huts that he's doing next to the copper factory. Right? The fixing up of the palmies. It's unbelievable.
And you have an opponent who is not a new opponent coming into politics, was up here in the north, didn't do a thing, could not complete the resource center in Grosley. Moved from that area after being bitten so badly.
Imagine what the lady said. So the lady couldn't even hold herself up. All right, talking to some young people and saying that they're going to have to maybe dig up the AstroTurf.
Because it gives cancer.
To give cancer?
No way. She made that statement?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then said that the problem with the project was that they should have acquired the land
For the playing field.
for the cricket before. And said that the cricket pitch in Soufriere was one of the best in the island. I mean, so when you have a person who cannot even relate to what is going on, and to understand that young people, now, you're going to have an AstroTurf to the extent that you have. Women who I had never seen playing football now are coming out to play football. Young people are enthused. We have not even used the track yet. By the time the swimming pool gets in, the new cricket pitch that he's doing next to the comprehensive school. So just as you're going up to the comprehensive school, on the left-hand side.
Ruby Estate.
Ruby, yes, I heard.
I mean, astonishing.
And there's
in one term.
And there's a brand new hospital plan. We are just finalizing.
Right next to where the courts building is.
We have acquired the land and everything. That's what I'm saying to the people of St. Lucia is, take our 5 years and compare it with the 15 years of labor. And I guarantee you, we have done more under the Alan Chasney-led government in 5 years than the 15 years of Kenny Anthony-led government.
Without a doubt. Without
So,
a
you know,
doubt.
you asked a very important question.
Yeah.
Can't take anything for granted.
No.
Okay? We still remain a humble government. We are very committed to what the cause is. We still have a ways to go.
Oh, yeah.
We have accomplished a lot, but by no means have we finished the work that we have to do.
Exactly.
And what we want and what we're asking the people of this country for is to give us the ability to continue building a new St. Lucia. That's what this is about. And if I have to be on as many shows as I need to be to help people to understand and appreciate what this government has done and where we've taken this country to, and how we've improved people's lives in this country, and what we intend to do in the next 5 years. The next 5 years is important.
Very.
You have to vote for your future.
Yes.
So what are you going to do? Move backwards and go back to a group of people that have failed? Nothing has changed? Even how they've acted in opposition. There has been no humility. From day one, it's been attack. Even with, and total nonsense. The whole thing with the deputy speaker of the House, it's a classic. The Constitution is clear. It must be selected by the parliamentarians.
And
any parliamentarian that is already a cabinet minister cannot be the deputy speaker of the House. So it means that one of them must be. So if you don't want to be and it's not convenient, that's fine, but don't blame anybody else. Now you want to talk about when elections are constitutionally due and ring the bell. And since when does the opposition dictate to the government in office when to have the elections? What dictates to the government is the Constitution. That's what dictates. It is 5 years from the beginning of Parliament, July 12th. But no, you want to go around banging pans, making all kinds of false allegations, and taking advantage of some people who don't know better.
I was about to ask you that.
Who don't know better. Simply because
we know the saying, empty vessels make the most noise. The fellas can come with something in the pan.
Now, you know what's so sad, guys? Do you know where the pan thing started?
Yeah.
Do you know where?
I thought it was with Christopher.
No. You see, but Christopher doesn't have any original ideas. Although he said he was involved in the creative industries, I really question all that. Okay? Everything that he's doing has been done before. The pan thing was started in Italy for COVID.
Oh, yes.
And so every afternoon at 6 o'clock, everybody would go on their balcony and bang the pan to do what? To recognize and celebrate the work that the frontliners were doing.
Oh, okay.
So you're taking a cause
Yeah.
that was done to recognize people making sacrifices and everything else, and turning it around to do this nonsense.
But look at what they did, Mr. Prime Minister. The prayer for the nation. The guys took the Lord's Prayer and turned it in. I mean, who plays with God in that manner?
I tell you,
Who plays
the
with
Labour
God in this
Party
manner?
is a cursed party. You need, y'all are not paying attention to what is happening. In the spiritual realm, you have to understand the nature of the individuals that you are dealing with, you know. I do not want to label any individual, but I want to tell you, as a collective body and as a party, I can tell you, ask them when they had the all black, all dressed in black party up at the mall, what they were doing there and what was happening there. I want St. Lucians to open their eyes to what is happening. If you have the capacity to govern this country, you don't have to pull no tricks to win the election.
I agree.
The people will vote. Don't try and maneuver things. We see all kinds of maneuverings by the Labour Party. I've not dealt with that. I will deal with these things in time. But don't think that the people of St. Lucia are not aware of what is happening. St. Lucia is in good hands today. We have not made progress by accident. We have made progress by deliberate, capable leadership.
With prayer.
With prayer.
So, you know, when you ask me the question, why and how I've been able to respond to what happened on Sunday,
Yes.
it's because of the confidence the Lord gives me. Honest, I say that to you with all honesty.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
There's no weapon that the Labour Party can raise. It's the Lord.
Yeah.
And I have full confidence in what He has intended. I thank Him every day for the inspiration that He gives me and the energy that He gives me to be able to fulfill what we have to do.
Amen.
But I don't expect it.
Amen.
It's for Him to give and for Him to take. And I want St. Lucians to know that this country is blessed. It's in good hands. And attempt that they may tempt to do anything ill against the country or the people of this country, we are protected. And we know that. And don't ever lose sight of that.
Are we doing a half an hour calling? No calling?
We're closing.
No
No
calls
calls
tonight? No calls.
No calls tonight.
No.
But what I want to say to the people is that a foundation has been established. This Prime Minister has shown that he has the capability to grow this economy, to manage in crisis. If we did not have COVID, we would not have known the full capability of this country to have raised enough money during the time of COVID. COVID is over a year, you know.
Yes.
That this economy has been severely impacted. And we are not taking away from the fact that some people have really had a tough time, have had to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
But from day one, the Prime Minister said, during COVID, it's survival.
Yes.
We've got to
Coexist.
survive this period.
Yes. Yes.
We have to do. And I don't want, if St. Lucians want to gamble with their future, that is up to them.
Yeah.
You have proven leadership on this side. You have a track record that shows where we got this country and where we took it to prior to COVID. You can compare that with the Labour Party. And even in the midst of COVID, we have done more work than Labour Party did when there was no crisis.
Yes.
And this did not happen by accident. Now I know they continue to attack the Prime Minister on the basis of his ethnicity, of being white, of being this.
Yes.
It's not the color of a man's skin that determines the nature of the man.
Yes.
It is what he has in his heart for the people.
Right.
And when he cries, when he gets emotional, they criticize him. But I know that's a prime minister who has love in his heart for the people, and he feels the plight of the people. That is half the job, you know, Champagne.
Yes, sir.
Because you can have all the qualities and you do not have love and compassion for the people.
That's right.
It does not bring the end results.
And that is our problem with our former prime minister.
And
no love, no compassion.
People can say, because Alan is your friend, you will say this.
Yeah, no, you say that all the time.
I met him during World Cup for the first time.
Actually, it was in this building, at the ECCB building.
Yes. First time I met him. And when he was finished speaking, I was heading the transport committee.
Yeah.
And I said, why did we bring consultants from overseas to work for us on this? Yeah. And you know what? The consultant who was in charge said, I do not know where to begin. Your maximum capacity is 19,000.
Yeah.
We handle events of half a billion, 500,000.
Yeah, half a million.
Half a million.
Half a million people.
A billion.
No, half a million.
Half a million.
Oh, okay.
500,000. And they said, y'all didn't need us. When we heard him speak, we knew that you had somebody. Yeah. And you know where I rate the Prime Minister the highest is what he committed to specifically. He said that he wanted unemployment to be at 15% and to grow the economy by 12% aggregate over the 5-year period. And with everything that transpired prior to COVID, we didn't know COVID would happen. 16.8% unemployment.
Yes.
Now that is a man who has calculated and done the projections. And with all of the challenges, St. Lucia is well poised. We have established a foundation under capable leadership. And I've said it to the people of St. Lucia. And I will say it without fear. Being a prime minister is not just holding political office in St. Lucia. Because to solve our problems, we cannot solve all our problems internally. We have to go outside. You have to get help outside. And that is where you need a prime minister who commands the respect and who has the influence to get the help that St. Lucia requires. And he has the capability. Look at the CIP program. Look at where he inherited it and where it is today.
Imagine.
We are ranked
number 1.
All the way up there.
But you know, I just got the numbers today. 2019, we did 70 million. 2020, because the other programs reduced their prices, and that's why we had to make the adjustment, we went down to 20 million. We're at $68 million in the first quarter.
Wow. The first quarter.
First quarter. And the U.S. took us off their human rights report because they're completely satisfied with what we have done.
The due diligence.
Okay. And we've generated now almost $25 million on the CIP bond.
Yeah.
Right? To help now in terms of funding our budget. But I want to say something that Guy was mentioning, and we have to come back to the show because we still have healthcare, we have security, we have. You asked a very important question about the youth.
Yes.
In terms of, you know, when the Labour Party was in government, and I thought that was really the symbol of when they really had lost it in my mind. They paid $500,000 US for Mark Anthony.
Oh yes, yeah.
$500,000 US dollars.
Yes, yes.
And all of these festivals were now bringing people of foreign. So here's the people talking about foreigners. And all of the festivals. What did we do? Transfer the money to Carnival. Transfer the money to Jeune Creole.
Yeah, local.
And now pushing our local artists and the creative industries.
Yes.
But here's the most important thing. I want you to appreciate this, and I know you with your colleagues. How do we measure what the potential of St. Lucia is? So if a farmer goes and look at a piece of land, the potential of that is what his yield per acre would be.
Yeah.
Yeah? So a good banana grower can do what? 22, 25 tons per acre, which can be translated into cash, right? But if a farmer is producing 8 tons per acre, you know he's in trouble.
Exactly.
Okay. So maximizing the output of your land. So taking Ojo Labs, a building that was there for 25 years empty, it generated nothing.
Right.
By putting 400 people in there, paying them an average salary of $3,000 or $3,500 a month, plus the feeding of the people, the transportation.
Yes.
So if you go there in the afternoon, you pass by and you see all the buses
bus
picking
drivers,
up out. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's about output per acre. Or if you want to take a country, square mile. Because countries are measured by square miles.
Or kilometers.
So if in fact Singapore, which is the same physical size of St. Lucia, right? 240 square miles. The output per square mile, which is the GDP of the country divided by the square miles of the country. So the output per square mile in Singapore is $1.5 billion.
Per square mile?
Yes.
Wow.
And St. Lucia's total GDP is 2.2. So they're almost producing more output in 1 square mile
than the whole of St.
Lucia.
My goodness.
Okay? Aruba has an output per square mile of $39 million. Barbados has an output square mile of 30 million. Now, Singapore is 1.5 billion, huh?
Billion, yeah.
All right?
Per square mile.
Yes. Nassau is $100 million per square mile. Cayman, $60 million per square mile.
And all of those countries are smaller than St. Lucia. Huh?
Yes.
Nassau,
and you know
Aruba.
what? Well, not Singapore.
No,
same size as St. Lucia.
Singapore, yeah, but
You know what
Aruba.
St. Lucia's output per square mile is? 9 million.
That's it?
That's it, my brother. 9 million. Aruba has 15,000 hotel rooms. No manufacturing, no financial services, no creative industry, nothing. Just 15,000 rooms.
Yes, I've been to.
And they're producing $39 million output. 70 square miles.
Yeah.
All right?
So
So imagine if we had the 15,000, or if we had the same output square mile of Aruba, because we have farming,
Yeah, exactly.
we have manufacturing,
That's right.
we have the creative industries, we have the offshore financial services, we have all these other things,
Yeah.
right? Our GDP would be 10 billion, 5 times what it is today.
Yeah.
And that's not even getting into the realm of Singapore. Now, what does that mean? That wealth means that everybody in this country is going to benefit.
Yeah.
Better schools, better healthcare systems, better roads, better playing facilities. And what does that mean? More opportunity.
So, by the grace of God, we have started. Are you going to get us there?
Absolutely. Now, it is our job to put St. Lucia on that path.
Yes.
And what are the constraints that were preventing St. Lucia? How could you get more people to invest in St. Lucia if you don't have a bigger airport?
Big airport, yeah.
It was already full.
And the hotel rooms as well.
Okay, but if you added more hotel rooms and you bring more people here, how are you going to get them
You have
here?
more of a jam at the airport.
Exactly.
Could the traffic gotten any worse between View Fort and going up to Rodney Bay? So it means you have to spread things out.
Yes, you
You
definitely
can't put
have to.
all of your eggs in one basket.
No.
Okay? So it's about capacity.
Now that you mentioned that, is any plans for a hotel in the vicinity of the airport, Beaufort?
Yes, but you have canals already going. You have what we're going to be doing at Sandy Beach. So when you drive at the bottom of the airport, we're cutting a new road along the fence, and the concrete road will become a boardwalk. And 100 acres of land now is going to be subdivided. So the same way that we would subdivide for housing.
Yeah.
We go in, we put the water, the electricity, and the roads. We're doing the same thing, but instead of building houses, it's to build small businesses.
Yes. Yes.
The same thing that we did at the T Village. That's smaller lots for you to put. This is a bigger lot, but it's the same concept.
Yes.
And what does it mean? You're now making very good land available to St. Lucians. On a great beach. We don't want to put any hotels on the beach. What we want to do is what Mr. King did at VG Beach, what Herod has done on the Hummingbird Beach.
Hummingbird.
right? Put in the facility so people can enjoy the recreation and intermingle with the tourist. The tourists want to intermingle.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
We have to have an authentic, and that's where the village tourism comes in. But what's driving us is knowing that St. Lucia is not delivering. We're bad farmers. Okay? So we have to now fix up our farm and improve the productivity. We have to improve the yield. So it's one project at a time. You're not going to improve a project that's going to take you backwards.
No.
So even when they talk about Cabot, and they talked about, oh, they're going to get local investors to do this and stuff like that. Are they crazy? So NIC would pay how many millions of dollars to buy the land and then have to invest another $150 million or more to put the infrastructure in, find the capacity to be able to design a golf course in order to improve the productivity. So when he says, well, they bought the land for this amount of money, but they're selling it at a higher amount of money, it's not the same piece of land.
No.
It is after they've put the investment in.
Yeah.
It's the goodwill and the reputation of the people who are involved.
But who benefits? If you have $300 million houses, you have now not just housekeepers, managers, villa managers.
That's right.
The grocery stores benefit, the technicians, all the people who go to maintain the air conditioning, maintain the TV systems, and do all the stuff.
The NIC borrowed Cabot 10 million US dollars, 27 million EC.
Correct.
There are still hundreds of St. Lucians, maybe even thousands, that are of the view that this is the entire cost of Cabot, the 27 million. I would like for you to tell St. Lucia what is the actual price of the Cabot lands.
The golf course itself is a $20 million investment.
Okay.
But more importantly, is that you have to have the contacts to have gotten Ben Crenshaw.
Right.
Ben Crenshaw is the #1 golf designer in the world today. So it's not even about the money.
Right.
Somebody has to know him. And they've done developments with Ben Crenshaw. So Kaiser and Ben Cowan did projects around the world with Ben. Right. So they got his team there. Now you have to bring all the water in from Beau-Saint-Jou and bring the pipes in. Then you have to cut the roads. Then you have to build the homes. So a person's not paying, $7 million just for the land.
No.
It's the land and the house. Somebody has to build the house. So when I heard Philip here talking, crazy man. What is he talking about? That somebody's ripped off St. Lucian, the same piece of land that they bought for $10 million, they've turned around now and sold one lot for $10 million? And you want really people to believe that nonsense? Now, you know what's interesting, right? Is that we had the Sandals project that we were supposed to do. And Landings took the government to court. And they lost the case. But the lawyer was Peter Foster. Now you have the National Trust taking us to court, right? On the police headquarters. Guess who the lawyer is?
Peter Foster again.
Peter Foster. Okay? The Cabot lands. Guess who wants to take the government to court? Peter Foster. We all know. I know Peter. Nice guy. But we know his affiliation.
Yeah.
And he knows better. There was an agreement at the police headquarters.
How much of a stall is the headquarters regarding the...
Not anymore. So
there's no stall?
No stall. There was an initial stall, but there's no stall. And even who they're suing the DCA, which is nothing to do with the government.
I just read that
but I assure you they're going to lose that case.
I read that the National Trust just got some artifacts and is not going to put this...
Can we close champagne?
I wanted to ask you one more question, Mr. Prime Minister, before we leave. And it may sound like a simple question. I think I know the answer, but there's a lot of St. Lucians that may not know the answer to that question because you constantly hear about borrowing. Or they're borrowing. What is the need for small countries such as ours to borrow money?
So borrowing is in different aspects. So as I said to you, when you have a budget and you have expenditures and it's based on your revenue. So if you know that you're going to be pulling in a certain amount of revenue, you can borrow to help from a cash flow perspective. You can borrow money for capital investment. You want to improve the business, etc., you would have to borrow money. Or if you have to do roads, so for instance, by putting a gas tax in, what you're doing is you're guaranteeing $30 million a year, approximately. So based on the revenue of $30 million, you could now go and borrow $200 million, based on the terms that you're going to get for the borrowing. But there are a lot of reasons for governments to borrow money.
Yeah.
Right?
And we are in a unique situation because of our monetary system with the ECCU and the central bank. So you look at a country like Barbados, and the central bank in Barbados will buy all the government bonds. In Barbados. The US Treasury will print the money that is required, and so they can do that for themselves. In our arrangement, our central bank does not buy bonds from the countries.
Doesn't print money for us.
So it does not print money for us. So that is a very different arrangement, but that has its benefits. That's why the EC currency remains one of the very strong currencies and very stable currencies.
So what happens in ECCB is that we've agreed to keep the exchange rate fixed. So it means that we have to have reserves to protect that fixed rate. Technically, it should be 60%, but we have almost 100%. And so when you get into a habit of something, it's very difficult to break.
Get out, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But I want to say to you that when we came into government, I said that government is no longer going to borrow money based on the revenues that we have in the consolidated fund. So what we did is your personal income tax, your corporate income tax, your property tax, your VAT rates, etc., which is really the bulk of government's earnings. We allow that to pay for the operating cost of government. And we said any capital investments has to come with its own revenue stream. Either we're going to get grant money, or we're going to create a revenue stream, whether it be the airport tax or the gas tax we've put on. And we've always said less onerous taxes on the people of St. Lucia. Right? And that is where now we're borrowing for the capital expenditure. And that's the big difference, is we've not had to wait for everybody, because otherwise you would have had to wait to get the money from a development agency. So for instance, the West Coast Road is a grant money from the UK. 30 million pounds, I think, is what we got from them. It's taken 8 years. Whereas we had our own money, we had a revenue stream. We went to the Taiwanese and said, look, we have this revenue stream. You have the third largest reserves of money in the world. Give us a concessionary loan.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we were able to get that, but it took us 2 years to negotiate that. Once we agreed on what it was going to be, I tell you, between the Exim Bank, their export bank, the bank in New York, to be able to handle all the money, that took another 1.5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? To be able to negotiate the terms. But meanwhile, the $30 million was going into the Ministry of Infrastructure. So the markings on the road that you saw, some of the roads that needed to be finished, a lot of the potholing that you saw, that's where that money came from.
Like the forest
So
road.
I want to say this to you. We have been extremely disciplined by how much money we've borrowed.
Yeah.
And what's going to be interesting is the Caregivers report, which is your credit rating report, should be coming out very, very soon. I'm very optimistic that we will not be downgraded, because we were downgraded because the debt to GDP went from 59% to 83%. And that GDP, or that debt to GDP increase, was because your economy contracted by 20%.
Yeah.
Your debt increased by 10 and your economy contracted by 20%. So the good news, as tourism comes back, which was 80% of the reason why you had the contraction, your debt to GDP will drop again. So I think that once the debt to GDP drops below 75%, our credit rating will go back up. But I'm also hoping that they will give us a positive outlook, because I think that St. Lucia has actually come out of the situation much better than they expected.
Yeah.
and certainly I think better than anybody else is expected. But I want to say that does not mean that there are people in this country who are still not suffering.
Yeah,
that's not
course,
true.
Definitely.
They are, okay? But every person, every country in the world has suffered. And we are doing our utmost best to try to mitigate against that.
Yeah.
But we're trying to keep the schools, kids are back at school. Kids are back at school.
I was so pleased to see on Chabati Street, I think it was last Friday, 7 staff buses with staff on them. Even me, I don't work at the hotel, and I was really
Hotels
happy to
are back
see that.
open, okay?
Yes.
Little restaurants are opening back up. We're getting back.
Yeah.
And I think that there are also some events that are going to probably happen in the next couple of weeks. I don't want to give away too much,
Okay.
right? And I think that when they happen, you'll remember today and you'll go,
right,
now I
okay.
understand what the Prime Minister
Yes,
was
yes,
talking about.
yes.
But until it actually happens, I will not say anything. And I think it's going to bring a huge smile on many people's face.
Yeah.
And so we've been through the worst of it, of COVID.
But it's not over yet, though.
It's not over, but you know, people just need to become vaccinated.
Yes.
You know, I met a lady today, she wants to go and stay at one of the hotels. Said, well, you need to get vaccinated. So the hotels are now saying everybody needs to be vaccinated to come to the hotels.
Yeah.
Right? So solutions now can go and intermingle with the tourist, but everybody has to be vaccinated. That's the way the world is going.
That is it.
Most people now are saying to travel on a plane, you need to be vaccinated.
Yes.
Martinicans are going to be able to come back to St. Lucia. They have to be
Yeah,
vaccinated.
vaccinated to get
If you
on
want to
that
go to
boat.
Martinique, you're going to have to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
If you want to go to the States, you're going to have to be
That's the way of the
vaccinated.
world.
Otherwise, you're going to go into quarantine.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, I've taken it, I've not asked any St. Lucian to do something I wouldn't do myself. First man in line. Many other leaders around the world have done the same thing. Many visible people in this country have done it, and I'm encouraging every St. Lucian to please become vaccinated, because this is the only way we can protect ourselves. Nobody planned for COVID. And amen, you know, the science and technology today have gotten us a vaccine much faster than we've had before. And I'm encouraging everybody to do it so we can get back to some level of normalcy. But in the meanwhile, kids are back at school, businesses are opening, and you can see that business is coming back. And I think with the investments we've made over the last year and a half and improving the competitiveness, the efficiency, the capacity of this country, in the next couple of months it's going to augur well. Business people who we're speaking to about making investments, the Daher Mall.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. We'll
You
get
have
that.
the Blue Borders is doing a new factory up in Massad. Is it
Yeah,
in
Massad.
Massad, yeah.
You have Rainforest doing a 25,000 square foot fishing planting process up north. All right? All around the length and breadth of this country, people are investing. The distillery, the brewery, Barron's Food is now putting a major plant in View Fort, not just to do hot peppers, but to do other products.
Baron Foods.
Barron, what did I say?
No, I know.
Barron's Food.
I just repeated
Yeah.
Baron Foods.
Barron's Foods.
Mr. Prime Minister, we, and I say we as all solutions, we owe it a lot to you, because you, while you were pressured for shutting this country down, you said no. Okay, partially you did at some point, but you did not shut this country, and today we are reaping the benefits. We are not out of COVID. When I see 2,000 passengers every week coming into Viewport, I remember.
Let us not take it for granted.
No, we're not.
The opposition is very quick to compare St. Lucia to other countries. I want them to do the comparison now. I want them to find out which country in the Caribbean has recovered 80% of its U.S. business, and which country within the next 2 months will exceed the number of U.S. arrivals they had before. Which country has flights into the UK? Which country has increased the capacity, airline capacity, to the extent this solution? We had you're
5 American Airlines on Saturday.
What was happening on what was the famous flight?
5 American Airlines. On Friday.
And one of them came from where?
Yeah, one came from Dallas, one from New York.
Dallas, Texas.
Yeah. Direct.
In COVID.
Direct.
We increased the number of people employed in the call center business in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, sir.
We've encouraged private sector people to invest in this country during COVID.
That's right. I don't think anywhere else in the world did that.
Okay? That is a confidence that is here.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Confidence that is here.
That's right.
And that is the same thing that we're asking the people of St. Lucia to bestow upon us, to send a signal to everybody that they have confidence in this government, that they're happy with the direction that we're going in, and that they too want us to continue the journey of building a new St. Lucia for everyone, not just for some, for every person in this country.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Prime Minister, now, gentlemen, before you leave, I would like for you to put something aside for Marsha when after the next election. I cannot live in a constituency that every other constituency is going way past me.
I don't know about you, right? But when I hear titles on certain people, I was trying to Mayor Champagne.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, you heard it here, Senator. Let me apologize to our callers. We were unable to take any calls tonight, but let's hope next week we will
And I
be
want
able
to
to
thank
do
the
that.
people of Castries Southeast. I want to thank the PM and my team here, Terry, Mr. Pitt, who is our PRO, and Keisha,
Keisha plays the most important role. I mean, that project is fantastic. And again, that was a project, in all fairness, to the Labour Party they started. And when we came in, we expanded it because it made sense.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Anything that makes sense, we don't sit here and say, when the water project in Dennery made sense, we continued it and got into phase 2. Okay? So it's not to say that this is a party that acts on vengeance. We don't. We act in the best interest of the people of this country.
Yeah.
So I really thank all of our listeners, all of our followers, and I know if I don't say that tonight, Rene Gulaman, he celebrated his birthday yesterday, which happened to be the anniversary of the party, and he said that was his best gift 5 years ago when we won the election.
You know whose birthday was yesterday?
Norbert's birthday as well.
Yeah, Bowtie's birthday yesterday.
Yes.
Happy belated
So happy birthday, Bowtie.
Now, we have not even spoken about your constituency, so the next time you come,
absolutely,
we will be talking about
I was just down there at the Splash Park, which is really fantastic.
Really nice.
I mean, and they had this young girl, I think she was 2 years or 3 years of age, celebrating her birthday. And she was just having the time of her life. And this is what we're talking about when we talk about improving the quality of life. To see the mothers there, a proper park with grass and the swings and the splash park, and just the smiles.
Yes.
And that's what I want to see.
I need to highlight that, that park more. Because a lot of solutions have not seen it.
Yes. It's very
beautiful.
People
say they need to take a drive down there to see exactly what it looks like.
Well, I'm encouraged that we're doing so many things to encourage me. I mean, as Guy was saying in Choiseul, what Dominic is doing on the waterfront and Ancillary, and painting the buildings along the main road, and just seeing the confidence of people coming out. I know there was a young girl from Barron's Drive when I went, a very sad day, a funeral.
Yes, I remember,
And this young girl came up to me. I know her and I know her mother very, very well. And she came up to me, she said, PM, I'm so proud to come from Soufrière.
Yeah.
And that just really touched me because I can say to you, when I first went to Soufrière, that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
And, congratulations to Herod, the Trafalgar Square, Old Trafford Square, just incredible.
But I'll tell you something. When in the next 5 years, the next
No.
on your side. No, I'm on your side now. I'm on your side. When you come down from the Mon and you get to the top of Goodlands and you overlook the valley, Castries Southeast will be the next city, not just a town.
I tell you.
But you know who's competing against him is Este,
The new town.
Yes.
The first new town that will be is cul-de-sac.
And you and I spoke about that a lot of times.
Thank you, gentlemen. My phones are lighting up, but I'm really, really sorry, callers, tonight. We will do all the calls next Monday, God willing.
The calls by yourself.
Okay. All right, gentlemen. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
A good night. A good night's rest. St. Lucia, let me firstly apologize for being unable to take any calls tonight, and my phones are still lighting up, but the Prime Minister and the Honorable Guy Joseph said I could take the calls. So take the calls tomorrow morning, God willing. So, St. Lucia, I hope you had a good evening, and we hope all of the information that came to your living rooms, your cars, wherever you were great information. This is the party of choice. This is the party of choice. His government is going to move this country forward. You heard, these are not just promises, these are actualities. So you have a good evening, and we hope to talk to you tomorrow morning. I'm going to be back at tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock to bring you the program Champagne in the Morning, and before me, the man, Brother Norbert Williams, will be here. We will be going into the BBC at this time until the wee hours of the morning. So, St. Lucia, you have a great evening. Don't forget to pray to the great God above. Say thank you. And when you wake up tomorrow morning, also say thank you to the great God. Have a good evening, St. Lucia. Good night's rest. We love you from Sky FM. Bye-bye.
There's people here. Who have you done them for?
Well, I suppose big country.
Today we are officially handing over the children's playground at the Lage Early Childhood Center. That's a project that was done jointly between the parliamentary representative, myself, and the Rainforest Skyride. Based on discussions we had, agreed to provide funding to buy bits and pieces as it pertains to the playground. I had to get resources to fence the area, to level up the area, to improve the drainage.
I am indeed very excited today for what Mr. Ezekiel Joseph has done for this community, for the school, the Lage Preschool, namely. I'm very grateful, and I can say a proud thank you to him for what he has done for the kids, especially in this